Hey everybody, Matthew Turner here, ROTL Lions UK, and is at work, but I'm hoping he's going to be joining me as soon as he finishes. And as I come live to you now, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, the deadline has passed. Every team, on pain of death, is at 53 as we speak. So, as we know at the moment, the Lions have 65 players remaining on their roster and 12 decisions have been made. But we don't know what they are yet. So we are going to be breaking them down to you and everything else that's happened today in just a second. Hope you're all well. Remember to @me, ROTL Lions UK on YouTube and Twitch, and I will be able to see your questions. Get your questions in, because this is going to be a fun afternoon, evening time. And thank you very much to Mike the Marine on Twitch, subscribing for his 6th month, saying, "Howdy UK brothers, I like Twitch better." He was on YouTube earlier. Right, so let me just do some preamble. Discord channel you guys know about, I'm sure you do, but it's been haywire today talking about all the comings and goings and cuts and what have you. Please join us there. It's a really lovely community of people, and we'd love to see you. So links in the chat for YouTube and Twitch right now. Come and join us. And otherwise, I'm just going to talk about what we've got coming up, because it's going to be an incredible amount of content that we've got coming with the start of the season just around the corner. So later on this week, Ant and Ryan are going to be back with the College Football Podcast, and that means that they are going to be breaking down week 0 from earlier on last weekend, and they'll be looking ahead to week 1. So if you like college football, you enjoy college football, you're going to build up to the draft in Detroit. If you're ever going to follow the College Football Podcast, do it this season, because it's going to be a great one in Detroit. Listen to that. And then next week, we have got 5 shows for you. 5. Count them, including a live reaction show. We have got the season prediction show on Monday. We have got the Kansas City preview show on Wednesday. We've got Kansas City live reactions on Thursday. We've got a college football podcast, which is going to happen at some point. And then we're going to be reviewing the Kansas City game later on that week. So no better a time to start listening to the most passionate Lions fans on the internet. Right, let's have a look at your chats here. Keith Jackson saying, "One Pride baby." Paul Ginder saying, "Do you think James Houston is still going to be on the team?" Paul, James Houston is not on the bubble. Do not believe the hype. There's no risk of him being cut. Trade, on the other hand, I did think was a possibility, however slim. I think that there's a real thought that the NFL might place a higher valuation on him than the Lions do. Clearly, though, we haven't heard about anything yet on that front. I don't see any way that he doesn't make the 53. Donkey Kong says, "This is so exciting, waiting for the final cuts." And I just want to say thank you to everyone watching live, because there's so many of you. It's fantastic. In the YouTube chat, like I said, we've got Donkey Kong, Paul Ginder, Keith Jackson. We also got Brent DeWitt. We've got Dan McGuinness, Lady Lion 20, Michael Lucci, Dan McGuinness. I've said you already. Giovanni Lyons II, Michael Brevort, Lisa Di Lorenzo, Bryce S. We've got Lions Gangster and Giovanni Lyons 2, and plenty of you as well who haven't said hello as yet. And on Twitch, you've also got Dan Pask and the aforementioned Mike the Marine as well. The big news for the Lions today is not actually about a cut at all, although they have taken someone's roster spot, and that is the cornerback Emmanuel Mosley. Emmanuel Mosley is being activated from the potentially unable to perform reserve, the PUP. If he was on PUP at 4 p.m. today, 9 p.m. UK time if you're that way inclined, then he would have been ineligible to play in the first 4 games. Dan did say in a press conference a few days ago that they were going to discuss whether he was going to be activated before the deadline or not. They have decided that he will. That means he will be eligible to play in the first 4 games. It does not mean he will play game 1. I think, given that he hasn't played at all in training camp, he doesn't have any chemistry with the guys out there at all, I think asking him to play next Thursday against Kansas City is a big ask. But I do think this puts him very much in the frame to play against Seattle and to play against the opponents in week 3 and week 4. So big news for the Lions that the big signing in free agency at cornerback, meant to be our cornerback 2, right? Jerry Jacobs not meant to be starting on this team. And Jerry fully well deserves being cornerback 2, and he will be, I think, until Mosley comes up to speed. but it's a big, big thing for the Lions that he's back, because DB depth, cornerback depth, outside cornerback depth was potentially a problem, with 2 UDFAs maybe making the roster. So Mosley coming back is huge for us. Hoof Artist has friendly heads up for the last few years. The Lions have stayed really quiet about their final cuts, and it takes us a while to figure it out. Makes it harder for other teams to steal players from the practice squad. I mean, there's so many players being cut right now. If you started at 90 and you've gone to 53, and that's 37 players that have been cut by every single team across the 32 teams, that's a lot of math that I'm going to struggle to do in my head, but it's over 1,000 players. So there are, in the last few days, over 1,000 players being cut. And you're right, Hufata, that's a lot for people to go through. I do think that can... So here's the rules, by the way, on waivers and on veteran cut. If you are a vested veteran, and that means that you have 4 accumulated seasons in the NFL, you immediately hit free agency. So there is no waiver process. You are immediately free agent. So if we've cut any veterans in the last 15 minutes, they're gone, and they're free to discuss with any team. If you are not a vested veteran, so 3 or less years, you are subject to the waiver process. That means that your contract stays valid, and you will be subject to waivers all the way up until noon Eastern Time tomorrow. Claims go in priority of the NFL draft order or reverse order for the standings last season. So the Bears are number 1. So if you guys have been worried about any of our cuts making it in division, Chicago could take all of them. What a fun thought. But there we go. The rest of the news from today, and I'm going to take my reference point as a place which amalgamates everything as Pride of Detroit. I think they just do a great job making it digestible. Since we spoke to you last, which was yesterday afternoon, and Paul Ginder has said 1,184 players. Thank you very much. We had Chase Lucas go yesterday, and I think that was the only one that we didn't cover while we were on the air. So the others were that Hendon Hooker was confirmed staying on the NFI reserve. That means that he will not be active for the first 4 games, much like the PUP list. Dylan Drummond, the wide receiver, was waived, as was Connor Galvin and Adrian Martinez, the tackle and the quarterback. As was the tackle Ryan Swoboda. Coyote Awashika, I'm not sure if he's cut or waived. Chase Lucas certainly waived. So the majority of those players all are rookies or 1-year players, so they'll be subject to the waiver process. Today's cuts, the tight end Darrell Daniels, he's gone. The kicker Parker Romo, that leaves Riley Patterson the only kicker on the roster. It does not mean that Riley Patterson will be remaining on the roster. There's still very much a possibility that neither make it. Brandon Joseph, the safety, the rookie, he had a very good preseason, but unfortunately he's gone as well. He's found the safety rotation hard to break. I wonder if that means Ifeatu Melifonwu is going to be making the roster. And the running back, Benny Snell, I know that he had a lot of fans in the Lions community. He had a good preseason with the limited reps that he was given, a core special teamer for Pittsburgh over 4 years. People thought that might be enough for him to get on the roster. Are the Lions taking 3 running backs? Are they taking 4? Does Jason Kabinda come along as well? Big questions that need to be answered. And for Benny Snell, if we do take 3 running backs, Craig Reynolds was firmly entrenched as that number 3. He got almost a half of play in the 3rd preseason game. He had most of game 1 and 2 as well. And at the end of the day, they wanted to protect 1 and 2, but they wanted to give 3 as many reps as they could. And it didn't give much of anyone else a chance. And I mean, Craig didn't exactly have a good game 2, was it? When the offensive line was absolutely terrible. I think he got 1.3 yards per carry. But he came out in preseason game 3 and had himself a day. Nice touchdown, really good vision. Craig Reynolds is the ultimate consistent performer, and he does it on special teams as well. And that was always going to be hard to beat. Jermar Jefferson, we haven't heard about him yet. There's some other players in this list which are going to be quite interesting. Let's recap the Pride of Detroit tracker. Let's have a look at the players that are still on the team as it stands. And I will just give it a quick refresh just to see, because we haven't had any further decisions yet. There are 3 quarterbacks still on this team. Jared Goff, Teddy Bridgewater, and Nate Sudfeld. Sudfeld is expected to go on injured reserve. He's suspected to have an ACL injury after that preseason game 3 mishap that he had near the sideline, which is a real shame for that. That would take our number of decisions down to 11. Running back there are still 5, including Jason Kabinda. That is David Montgomery, Jameer Gibbs, Craig Reynolds, Jermar Jefferson, and Jason Kabinda. Is that room going to stay as it is? Or will there be 1 or 2 more to go? Wide receiver, there are 7. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, Marvin Jones, Antoine Green, Chase Cota, and Maurice Alexander. Jameson Williams, it is not official yet, but he will be on the suspended list, and that does not count against the 53-man roster. He does not need to be part of the original 53. He will not count against it. The players there to get cut: Drummond, Benson, Davis, and more. I feel really sorry for Dylan Drummond. I really thought he was going to make it. Apparently the 3rd best wide receiver in camp, but that is not good enough with the vets that we have here. Interesting to see who makes it. I think that we have 5, and I think it will be St. Brown, Reynolds, Raymond, Jones, and Green. I know that there's a lot of clamouring for Chase Cota, and a very good preseason, and a different type of receiver to the rest of the guys we have out there. Maurice Alexander obviously had a really good punt return for a touchdown. And generally speaking, he's a really hard-working guy who a lot of people love in the room. I don't think that's going to be enough for him to make it. And yet we still haven't cut him yet. So let's see what happens there. Tight ends, there are only 3 remaining now, with Brock Wright, Sam Laporta, and James Mitchell. Offensive line, there are still 10. And they're only expected to carry 8, according to Dave Burkett. Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnow, Hala Boulevati, Vaitai, Penesal, Graham Glasgow are considered locks. Colby Sorsdal should be considered a lock given his draft status and how he's done so far. Matt Nelson seems to be that backup tackle. That's 8. We also have Brad Cecil, the backup centre, although Glasgow would appear to have that covered. And Max Percher, he's the international player pathway player that we have. He's played for 2 seasons already with the LA Rams, but he can take the international player pathway exemption and effectively a 54th man for the Lions. He will not be allowed to play a regular season game as part of that exemption, but he could take it and he would be able to train with us all season. That is probably the expectation at this point. That's what will likely happen. Turning our attention to the defensive side of the ball. In fact, I will stop there and hang fire while I have a read of your comments. Al Judderman says, anybody wave cut from other teams that we should be looking at as yet? I mean, these cuts are coming in all the time. As we say, 1,200 players are going in the last few days. So there's always players. And the big rumour is Lions are in for a kicker. Now, we've seen, I think, 3 trades today for kickers. So I don't know whether there are any vets or any people being cut that we could have a look at. I'll go through some of the other teams' moves in just a second. Hoofarter said, if I remember correctly, last year I went to sleep before we had a final list, and I go to bed around 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is about 4 a.m. my time. But hey, I made a recap, and if we have to talk about it next week, talk about it next week. But it's always fun to see you guys. This is potentially the most live viewers that we've ever had on the show before, apart from maybe during the draft. So appreciate all of you being here. If you want to come say hello, I'll give you a shout out. So please do. El Gentleman saying, yes, I saw Lutz went to Denver. There was also, I wanted to say Dustin Hoffman, but that's someone else. Let me have a look. I can't remember. Trade. Nick Folk went to the Titans. Oh, wow. Dan Pask coming in saying that Starling Thomas has been waived. I hope that's not true. Oh, man, that would suck. Yeah, Ryan McCluskey also confirming it. Starling Thomas waived. Wow, that's huge. Oh, man. I feel so sorry for him. What a camp he's had from absolutely nothing, and what a guy. Oh, shit. Jeremy Fowler with the news there, apparently. Oh, man. I feel for that guy. He played so well. Um, Who Farter's saying, weed is legal here in Michigan now. Lawmakers said, what if Will Harris makes the Lions cut again and the law passed 5 minutes later? That definitely maybe happened. I love it. Geordie Mansion saying, what's up? Hello to you. And Gino's in the building as well. Craig Gomes saying, Jeremy Reisman is hating it, but the Lions had to choose Broderick Martin versus Moody. And they made the right choice, in my humble opinion, because I think Broderick Martin's going to be an absolute beast. Steve Litkin says Gilmore is better, but that stinks. I completely agree on both of those sentiments. Starling is very handsy, very aggressive on defense, but he's a damn good gunner on special teams. He was the starting gunner. I do expect him to come back to the practice squad if he makes it through waivers, but he's had such a good camp and such good joint practices that I wouldn't be surprised to see him picked up. And I mean, this was a guy, Starling Thomas, was a day 3 rated selection by most draft analysts. He was an early day 3 selection. He was expected to go 5th round. So he slid out the draft. But that didn't mean he wasn't on people's radar. People know about this guy. So I very much think that he could get picked up. Michael Luce says this means that Harris makes it. Mike, there is absolutely no chance that Will Harris gets cut. It costs the Lions $1.3 million to cut him against the cap. And I don't mean dead money. I mean, it cost them an extra $1.3 million to cut him and not doing it, especially not with someone who is so versatile in lots of positions. He can be bad in all of them. I know. Brandon Kerr says, looks like it's between Gilmore and Khalid. I think that's Khalil, I think you mean. Turn the D into an L and you got the man, Dorsey. Dorsey's your guy. I think that both of them potentially make it. But yeah, Michael, Will Harris is 100% making the team, and if you listen to some of the, and I'll say this because some of them are my friends, but the beat writers for the team, the podcasters who do this stuff, none of them ever thought that Will Harris was getting cut. And there's a really good reason for it. It's because they absolutely love him. Giovanni Lyon saying Will Harris has a picture of somebody naked. He's staying. I mean, the thing he's got is that the contract value against the cap is about 1.3 million, but we get to pay him 2.6 million because of the veterans exemption. It's his 5th year with the team, and he has been with the team for 4 years, and you get a special amount against the cap for free. I don't really understand why, but there we go. Steve Litkin says Thomas is better than Harris. I potentially agree, or at least upside-wise, I agree. Let's hope he makes it back through, because he may well do. Steve Litkin says, I take it you know about Romo and Snell. We do. I have recapped already all of the day's cuts so far. L. Gentleman says, can see Starling at Falcons. It's a good shout. Talk the Homer Run Slamming Dork Dragon Fan Tim, which is a fantastic name. Says, breaking news, Pats release Bailey Zappi. Haven't seen that, but I don't doubt you. I'm trying to read all of the updates along with talking to you at the same time, which is not easy, I tell you now. But it's really sad for Starling. Yes, Bailey Zappi gone. Bailey Zappi is available. I wonder if someone's in the mood for a backup quarterback. Well, it won't be us, because we have someone better. But there we go. Right. Let's turn our attention to the defensive side of the ball. Michael Lucci says Zappi is better than Sudfeld. Agree. Completely agree. Sudfeld ain't making the team. Even after he goes on IR, not going to happen, because don't need him. Got a backup quarterback. If he wants to be on our practice squad, it's absolutely fine, but he's not going to want to, and I think someone else will claim him, to be frank. Let's have a look at the defensive side of the ball. Interior defensive line, defensive tackles and nose tackles. We've got 7 left. Aleem McNeil, Isaiah Buggs, Levi Onwuzurike, Benito Jones, Broderick Martin, Corey Durden, and Chris Smith. I expect to keep the first 5 options there, although I have a very soft spot for Corey Durden and what he did in preseason game 3. He was an absolute menace at the 5 technique. Never mind being on the interior. We were short at edge, and he did a laudable job against the second and third teamers. On the edge, Still 7 remain. Aidan Hutchinson, Charles Harris, John Kaminsky, Josh Pascal, James Houston, Romeo Aquara, and Julian Aquara. I expect all but Julian to make it, even with the cuts that have been made and the trimming down, especially of the offensive line and Starling going. I still think that Julian will go. I actually think that Starling going is a really good sign for Anthony Pittman, because we need people with special teams upside. And at the end of the day, if Starling ain't there, Anthony Pittman's probably that next best guy, assuming that Jalen Reeves-Maybin makes it, and he very much is making it for me. I think he's been terrific this preseason. Coming on to that linebacker group, there are still 7 of those guys left. So in the IDL room, the edge room, the linebacker room, we've only cut 1 so far out of the 21, which is nuts. Linebackers available: Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Malcolm Rodriguez, Derek Barnes, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, Anthony Pittman, and Trevor Nowaski. I expect now the top 6 to stay, and I hope that Trevor Nowaski will get to the practice squad. I think he will, but I don't see him making it. Cornerback, now 7 available. Cameron Sutton, Jerry Jacobs, Emmanuel Mosley has been removed from the PUP, as we were talking about earlier. Brian Branch, Will Harris, Stephen Gilmore, Khalil Dorsey. Those are your 7. Starling Thomas waived just a moment ago. Really unfortunate, but there we go. Safeties available. There are still 5. CJ Gardner-Johnson, Kirby Joseph, Tracy Walker, Ifeatu Melifonwu, and Brady Breeze. Special teamers, there's only 1 in each position, so unless we're cutting one of them and we have none, in which case we'll have to replace them before Kansas City, it's going to be Jack Fox, the punter, the kicker, Riley Patterson, and long snapper, Scott Daly. Who are the people that you are tipping for the chopping block? Who do you think is the low-hanging fruit here? I do think that Brady Breeze is another good special teamer, so he's got a shout to get there, but I do think he might be the one to fall. A lot might depend on Ifeatu Melifonwu's injury, because he's been a bit iffy, so didn't mean that, but there we go. Ifeatu Melifonwu has had his injury troubles, and he's week to week right now, day to day, but let's see. Out of the remaining cornerbacks, I expect them all to make it. Dorsey, I think, will make it. Gilmore will make it. Harris, Branch, Mosley, Jacobs, Sutton. Don't see any reason for any of those to go. Just want to say hello to the people saying hello at this point in the show. So, Bobo Lan is saying hello from Melbourne, Florida. DMAP Zoom saying hello from across the pond. How's the team looking? Well, it's looking rather full right now, given that there's still 64 players left and 11 decisions still yet to be revealed. We are down to 53. We must be. Everyone must be, but we don't know who yet. Hoofarted says that Brady Breeze is probably cut. He's too raw to make the 53-man. I think I would agree with you. He played really well in the preseason. When we were short at safety, when we wanted to protect some of the starters, he came in, did really well on special teams. But actually, I think he played very well as a safety. And I think it's telling that Brandon Joseph went before he did. CJ Rose is in as well. Hello to you. Saying that Starling not making it to the practical squad with 3 crying emojis. And I agree. I really think that's tough. Really tough. But he's had a great preseason. So, can't blame a team for wanting to claim that. Brandon Kerr saying, also don't forget the Lions look at the practice squad, which is a part of their whole team with just a division of pay and possibility of being poached, which is rare. It is a 69-man team. The Lions see it that way, and with the number of times they elevate people, it very much feels that way. It did last year, and it did the season before. But there's no guarantee that these guys get there. Bryce S. saying Green over Cota. 1, Green speed can be a good replacement for JMO speed. Green is the better direct replacement for Cota. Of that, there is absolutely no doubt. Green's route running is probably potentially slightly better than Cota as well, but Cota has had very reliable hands, and he has been more consistent in the preseason. If you're looking for upside, Green's the guy long term. Cota, he's a slow, almost tight end style of wide receiver, but that hasn't stopped him being really productive. And you know what? The Lions are in need of players like him. But unfortunately for Cota, I think we're in need of players like him on the practice squad to elevate 2 or 3 times before possibly upping him to the 53. And I can see that Ant have now seen the Starling Thomas news and saying, fuck's sake, I swear to God, if Harris swans around doing fuck all again this year, I'm going to lose it. So there we go. Yeah. The man himself not happy. Other news from around the league, Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is not moving on today. Confirmed he's going to be on the PUP to start the season. Will miss the first 4 games. Bailey Zappi being waived might be a sign that Malik Cunningham has made it at the Patriots, which would be really interesting. No, Cunningham has gone as well. Wow, no QB2. I know that Tim Boyle has also gone, which is interesting. Let me recap some of these other decisions as well. The Denver Broncos traded tight end Albert Okwuegbunam, I don't know how to say that name, to the Eagles. I think that was a late round pick swap. The Ravens released Melvin Gordon. Eagles cut linebacker Nicholas Morrow, which I think is a slight surprise. We had the Cowboys trading corner Kelvin Joseph, former second round pick, to the Dolphins for cornerback Noah Igbenogany. He was a former first round pick. Vikings waived Dwayne McBride. He was a 7th rounder this season, but just didn't quite make it. Super fast, if I remember rightly. He ran under a 4.3 40-yard dash. He surely is going to get a chance somewhere. Jets cut Tim Boyle. Dolphins released Chosen Anderson, formerly Robbie Anderson. Giants released Cole Beasley, which seems like a big cut considering his prestige in what he's done. Steelers traded guard Kendrick Green to the Texans. Chiefs traded for defensive tackle Neil Farrell from the Raiders. Bears released Nathan Peterman. That was a sign that the Division 2 quarterback made it there for the Bears. God, I can't remember his name for the life of me at this point, but it's hard. Nick Folk traded to the Titans. I mentioned that before. Cowboys waived linebacker Jabril Cox, formerly of LSU, I think. Really good linebacker. Was a late rounder because he was basically injured all of his rookie season and got injured before the draft. Former Lion punter Aaron Sipos was released by the Eagles. Broncos traded for Saints kicker Will Lutz. He's a super, super good kicker, so I was surprised to see them let him go. Texans released edge Chase Vinovich. If I remember rightly, he's a former Michigan edge. I'm not great on my college stuff, but I thought that was noticeable for you guys. Von Miller starting on PUP. What else do we have here? Myles Gaskin got released, the running back. He'll get some attention. Bills traded former second round pick Boogie Basham to the Giants for a pick swap, which is a fall from grace and a half. Panthers released linebacker Deion Jones. Jamison Crowder got released from the Giants. Panthers acquired Chiefs wide receiver Izmir Smith-Marset for a pick swap in 2025. And I think we are all the way up to date on some of those bigger moves. Chicago kept Tyson Bagent. Thank you very much, Lisa. That's great. Yeah, Brent says, tired of watching Will Harris get beaten every game. Opposing QB see him on the field and instantly target the dudes. And the thing is, I always want to make sure that the criticism of Will Harris stays professional because the guy is one of the nicest players you will ever see. He is a trier. God help him, he's a trier. He gives absolutely everything. But he's not good enough. Steve Litkin said, yes, Melvin Gordon cut indeed. And Michael Lucci says, yes, Mac is all alone in New England, so they'll be looking for a backup. Breeze is this year's Miles Killebrew. The legend of 35 will live on, says Daniel G. And thank you for joining us, Daniel G. QQWW saying, oh my God, they'd cut Jack Campbell. No, sir. No, sir, no way. Anomical says, does PUP get a paycheck? PUP functions like every reserve. Full pay received. So if you are on IR, if you are on PUP or NFI or any of these lists, the only ones I think that don't get paid and I'm not 100% on this. I think of the commissioners exempt list guys. I'm not sure if they get paid, but everyone else gets paid in full, which is why it's always interesting when a player takes an injury assessment from injured reserve, because if a player is on injured reserve, they get their pay for the year. So if you are a person who maybe you're never going to make it on the 53, you're a practice squad guy at best. Practice squad guy, if you're on it every single week, you might get about $180,000, but the minimum pay of someone on the active roster is like $750,000 if you're a rookie. Well, if you don't think you're going to make it, why would you ever take assessment? You're making 750 grand. And like, okay, if you're not going to be injured that long, you want to make it in the NFL, you believe you can get there, then you want to try out for a team and you take an injury settlement. But man, if you're not confident in your ability, take the money and stay on IR all year and come back next season and see what happens. The Turkey Stealer is in the building saying, any buzz about a Mike Evans trade? Would he be worth a third rounder? So the rumour yesterday was Mike Evans to Detroit for a third and a seventh. That was the rumour. It clearly hasn't come true yet. Definitely worth it. Would change the face of the Lions completely. A genuine number one wide receiver to attract attention away from Amon-Ra St. Brown and the other receivers that we have. Khalif Raymond and all the others that we've got back there. If we have a big number one guy, then it can't hurt us. And we would inherit him at about $15 million. He's on the cap at the moment with Tampa Bay for about $23 million. And I know that's a bit steep, but they would actually keep about $8 million of that. So there we go. Brent just said a second and a third for Evans. Yes, no, a third and a seventh. 3, 7. That was the rumour, but I mean, it hasn't happened yet, so there we go. Just checking for any updated news. No further news as yet, so I'm going to continue reading what you guys are saying here. QQWW saying you'll have too much blind faith. I think if you had levelled that at us 2 years ago, you would have been correct. Last year, you would have had an argument. But at this point in time, Brad Holmes deserves the credit. 2 years ago, this team was a dregs of a backwater team. It was the worst Lions team that I've seen in my fandom. I've been a fan since 2009. So this is my 15th season coming up. What Matt Patricia left us and what his GM left us, I dare not speak his name, what they left us was one of the worst teams I've ever seen, because the Patriot-style team is so specialised that someone coming in couldn't do anything with that. There was no versatility in that team whatsoever. Everyone had a defined role, and if you wanted to go somewhere else, you had to completely change your team. And they did have to completely change your team. So, at the end of it all, to go from there to here, favourite for the NFC North, third favourite for the NFC in 2 years, Brad Holmes is on a pedestal to me. He can do no wrong. That does not mean he's immune from criticism. It means he has earned my respect. And I will trust him until he shows me otherwise. Nay Custer saying, don't think we'll go for Mike Evans. More chance of trading up in the next draft for Marvin Harrison Jr. Nay Custard, I'm going to say this to you now. Unless you think the Lions are going to be really bad and will be willing to trade at least one future first, we're never getting anywhere near that, man. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best prospect at the wide receiver position in the NFL draft since Megatron, bar none. And, Marvin Harrison will go top 3 next year unless the quarterbacks take up that room. He's going to be a massive prospect, so there we go. Mike Kimber in the building. Lions Talk by Chat Sports saying Yahoo. Hello, Mike. Hope you're doing well, man. We are here in the depths of the doldrums of the cut downs, and thank you very much to Pride of Detroit subscribing at tier 1 for their 14th month, saying drafting a running back in the first round takes 1 foot off Brad Holmes' pedestal. I mean, you got me. You got me, Jeremy. I mean, I was saying, what if the Lions only carry 5 wide receivers because they plan to play Jahmyr Gibbs as a Z wide receiver? Just saying, let's play Montgomery as running back 1, play Craig Reynolds as running back 2, and play him as a full-time Z. No need to worry about Chase Coulter at all. Who knows? QQWW says, question, how did you get into NFL football being for the UK and all? I'm a rugby player. I always play with an oval ball anyway. The sport is very, very similar. You can see that if you just watch them for a little bit. And then I started playing Madden at university, started watching Super Bowls. Playing Madden in 2009 was a lot of Matthew Stafford stuff. Is the colour of the team I played as at school anyway, Detroit, and then started watching the games and fell in love. And also wanted to support a team, honestly, that wasn't that good, because I love an underdog story, and you know what, if you're from the UK, there's so many Pats fans here, it's so sad that you would go out there and just support a team that's going to win every season as it was back then. You're buying happiness at the, cents on the dollar. Happiness as a Detroit fan is very much earned through years of pain. And I'm sure that you guys all feel that right now too. Jonathan Anton's in the building saying, what's up, Mike? And Mike is in the building saying, what's up, Matt? D-Matt Zoom says, is Will Harris still on the team? Will Harris is not going anywhere. He is not going anywhere. He is very much staying. Alien Vivita is on Twitch saying, and they run the ball with Amon Ra. Amon Ra, running back. Absolutely. I mean, we need to see more of this. The guy's vision is elite, and his handling's elite, so why not have him in the backfield? They did a little bit, but jet sweeps and all that stuff, love to see it. El Juddman saying, I picked the Lions because I like the colours. There we go. QQWW saying, I respect you for being a real fan. I am in Michigan, but you chose the misery. I live for it. And also, Detroit's low-key a cool city. I went in November 2021 for Thanksgiving. It was great. I absolutely loved it. And I loved going to Ann Arbor for Michigan, Ohio State, which was a hell of a game as well. Carlton saying, Jahmyr isn't a running back. He's an offensive weapon. I know that you are a mouthpiece for the Lions, Carlton, so of course you would say that. I'm calling him a wide receiver. It doesn't even have to be a weapon. D-Map saying, what kind of dirt does Harris have on Sheila Hamp? I mean, what he has is $1.3 million worth of cap that the Lions will lose if they cut him. So there we go. Brandon Kerr saying, Amon-Ra St. Brown is Golden Tate 2.0. Brandon, I'm going to go one better and say that Amon-Ra St. Brown's better than Golden Tate ever was for this team. And I was a massive Golden Tate fan. But it's one of those things. Steve Litkin saying, Jason Kabinda makes a roster question mark. I would rather the Lions use the roster spot on some other way. This is another one that has gotten the attention of a lot of people, myself included. If I was making the cut downs, Jason Kabinda would not be making the roster. And I say this with Jason being the only current Lions player to ever appear on this show. Getting the Lions guys to, for us to get access to these guys is really hard. Jason and his agent were absolutely fantastic. So I have nothing but love for him, and he was so lovely to us. But I don't think he's in the top 53 players in this team in terms of everything that the players bring to this team. So I'm talking in terms of the quality of his play, yes. I'm also including locker room play. I'm talking special teams upside. I'm talking whether he's going to be a captain or not. Bring that all in. I still think that you're getting more from Anthony Pittman. In terms of special teams upside, in terms of what else you can do for me, I'd rather carry a fourth running back instead of Jason. and get special teams from elsewhere. Or we know that Jeremiah Jefferson's been doing better at special teams, although he's potentially injured now. Who knows? CJ Rose said, we have Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson, definitely attracted fans from all over the world. I was unfortunate to have Calvin be injured when the Lions visited London. As I've watched the Lions twice, they came over twice, got blown out by the Chiefs, and had an amazing comeback win against the Falcons. He didn't play in the Falcons game, and I think he might have been gone by the Chiefs game. But yeah, the Lions' victory against the Falcons is one of my greatest moments as a fan of any sport anywhere. We were 21-0 down at the half, and we won it with a walk-off field goal that had to be retaken after it was missed, but with a false start. I mean, if you don't fall in love with football in that moment, then, you know, you're dead as a human being. You have no feeling. Just having a look at our Discord channel now to see if there's any updated news, because those guys are so hot on getting the news into that room. I'm just going to pop the link to join our Discord channel in the chat. If you would like a community of Lions fans to join, really friendly group of people, really welcoming, talk about all sport all the time. We've got a college football pick watch going. I'm going to have an NFL pick watch going when the season rolls around. We've also got stuff like sales of merch between fans in there. We've got off-topic discussions, fantasy football, gambling chats, ways to speak to the rest of our guys too. So come and join us if you like. It's a really nice place to be. Right. QQWW really trying to troll hard though, saying they cut Hendon WTF, but he is confirmed on the non-football injury list and so will be on a reserve. Won't count against the 53. Cannot get activated in the first 4 games. Let's have a look. Let's see if there's anything else around the NFL stuff. Just having a look at the pod tracker, just to plug Pride of Detroit once again. They've got a great tracker looking at the players remaining on the roster, how many decisions left to go, and when and who has been cut. So go to prideofdetroit.com and check out their tracker, which is live on the website at the moment. You might as well have seen that Pride of Detroit have launched their direct service, which is a twice-a-week newsletter from Jeremy Reisman. And, I mean, I can't wait to see that. So go and check that out. It's going to be something really, really special. Matt Verville says, love the intro you guys have on you on. I'm assuming that's going to be podcast audio pod. We have had such mixed reviews on that. The British national anthem intermixed with Lions audio and calls and stuff like that. We've tried to change it, mainly because we are worried that if anyone actually starts caring from the Lions, that they're going to think that there's some copyright infringement with using some of the audio calls on the radio. So there's that, but also we don't want to alienate people. With the UK national anthem. Obviously, everyone's British on this show anyway, so if you don't like Brits, you probably won't like it anyway, but you know, it's one of those things. Tom Chase, subscribing on YouTube. Thank you for doing that, Tom. Appreciate you. Eric Minion Senior saying, did Gilmore make the team? We don't know yet. We don't know. I have to say that for Gilmore, it's a really good sign that Starling Thomas didn't make it, because frankly people thought both of them were making it, but with Starling not there, I mean, unless Dorsey's going to make it over Gilmore, we probably need 6 corners, with Sutton, Jacobs, Mosley being outside guys, and then Branch and Harris being slot guys. Harris, I guess, is more a slot than an outside guy, although he can play both. Then in Gilmore and Dorsey, you've got an outside corner 4. That's all it is. Right? We don't have many people who can play outside corner. I mean, we can move Brian Branch out there. He is versatile enough to do it, but do we want to do that? We know that if Artie Melifon, we can play there, but I mean, the Lions decided to move him for a reason. Hufard is saying, other than putting cream in tea, Brits are awesome. Very rare that Brits actually put cream in tea. It does happen every now and again, but it's extremely rare. Donkey Kong saying, Harris can't play either spot. What the hell are you talking about, homie? I mean, I bow to you, sir. I bow to you on that. He doesn't play either of them particularly well. Experiment in there saying, read the podcast intro. Feel free to change the tune, but the ending is hilarious. Detroit will be assessed a 15-yard penalty. The play is not reviewable. What a painful moment. Maybe we should swap it out for the 10-second runoff call, because that was ultimate pain, especially because he broke the plane. Like, the rule was bullshit anyway, but he broke the plane. I still believe it to this day. That, or maybe picking up the flag in the Dallas playoff game. I mean, we're going through a who's who, what's what of terrible Lions moments, but there we go. Eric Minion Sr. came back and said, with Thomas out, Gilmore, I hope he makes it. He's got to. I'm sticking my neck out there right now and saying he's got to make it, because Starling was that man, but Gilmore showed up so much at the end of that game in preseason game 3. He translated everything that we'd heard about what had happened in joint practices to the field. He'd been consistent, but he hadn't really flashed and really shown that he could elevate that play so high. So really glad for him that he did that, and hopefully that means he's staying. Whisper it quietly, but it clearly was pass interference for the pick 6. Like, it's not a bang play. He was like a second early, but you know, there we go. Mike saying, waiting for Huge to call, they call me and I jump on. So of course, if Mike has to jump on the Huge show, do go and listen to him. I know that that's a really, really great thing. Jeff Hurley saying, gotta say, Khalil has come a long way since taking out Zulstra. Must have been a really impressive. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, they were not happy about that play. And to say it mildly, Dan Campbell was pissed. So the fact that he is one of these last few being cut is really, really impressive. Carlson Wood saying, Matt Justice Filler, what is the emergency quarterback rule? Are they part of the 53 but out of the matchday 48? That is exactly right. So, can't be a practice squad elevation. Can't be a member of the 48 man, because if you're part of the 48, you wouldn't need the rule. So, part of the 53, but inactive for the game. If the first 2 quarterbacks that are active are injured, you can then enter the third guy who's inactive and bring him in active. Jeff Hurley continues to be the most generous and the most lovely fan that we have. Super chat, super sticker, crying, laughing emoji, $10. Jeff, you're the absolute best, man. Thank you so much. You've gone above and beyond for us, and when we come out to Detroit for April for the draft, I really think I'm just going to try and put all of this money into a party for you guys. If any of you are around in Detroit when we arrive for the draft, and I know there's going to be a few parties going on that week, but I'm sure we need to do something, even if it's just putting a tab behind the bar or something. Come and say hi. We'll find a bar, we'll put a tweet out there, and hopefully we can meet some of you guys. It would be a really, really cool thing to do. Jeff saying, you guys rock. Thank you. Thank you, man. Pride of Detroit. Jeremy's saying, there is nothing offensive about the British theme, just the food. Which is my mushy pea segment. I don't know what it is about this lovely, lovely thing that people do not understand, because it's not meant to be a food that you just eat on its own. You're not meant to have it cold. It is a very specialised thing. Mushy peas, you must have it only with fish and chips. If you have it with any other food, you are very weird. And quite a lot of Brits actually don't like this either, but I do. It's almost a condiment. It's almost a sauce, but not quite. It's great to have with the fish on top of it as a sort of condiment, maybe with some tartar sauce as well. It goes really, really well together. But I'm sure we'll make Jeremy eat it for a forfeit when we beat him. A bit of pick-up football when we come over. And shall we bear in mind, none of us Brits have really ever played football. But let's see if we can beat them anyway. To be honest, I fear that Eric Schlitt. You know, he's a hell of a competitor. Even though it is the Jeremy Reisman recording room, as we all know now. So many podcasts, so many Riseman recording room segments, so much of Eric's openly sighing, which I absolutely love. What else have we got here? Matt Verver saying, are you a snooker fan? Love snooker. Don't follow it religiously, but do like it. Brandon Kerr saying, it seems like mushy peas is the equivalent of cream corn in the US. I think that you're probably right, but mushy peas are not sweet, and I think cream corn is very sweet. So there we go. Matt Verver was saying Ronnie O'Sullivan, he's an absolute genius. Pool or snooker, he's absolutely fantastic. Drew Howard saying, do you peanut butter and honey with Lyles? Peanut butter I eat on its own. In a sandwich or something, but I don't put anything else with it. I don't get PB&J. I don't like the texture of the two together, but that's me. Brad of Detroit says, runner-up Eric Schlitt is more athletic than you'd think. I think he'd murder me in in an athletic test, but there we go. Right. Alien Vivita saying, British beans are far better than American beans. I wonder. We'll have to try that out. I do like the baked beans. But anyway, are there any more cuts, people? I don't think there are so far, unfortunately. Oh dear, right. Let's have a look and see if there's any news from around the league as well. Bear with me a second. Lots of the moves are basically just finalised 53-man roster, but it must be that there's nothing absolutely massive happening in there because there are no individual shout-outs. Let's just recap again what's happened with the Lions for those guys who have just come in late. And there's 116 of you in YouTube Live. It's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for being 125. Thank you for being here. It means a heck of a lot to us. Let me just speak about Royal Lions just before I go into what's happened today for the Lions. And David Dunlap says, I didn't know the Pride have fans across the pod. Thanks for covering our Lions. You would be surprised at how many Lions fans there are over here. When we started out, our listenership was about 50-50 in terms of like European and United States. As we've grown, we've taken the low-hanging fruit of the American fans because, there's a lot more of them. But there's a really good swell of support for the Lions in England especially, but there are fans in Scandinavia, especially in Finland and Norway and Denmark. We get some of our best ratings as a podcast from those countries and Sweden. We've spoken to fans from Italy, Germany, Spain. They're all over the place, but you will see if you go to Wembley or Tottenham Stadium for the games in London here, you will see a Lions fan probably one in every 15 shirts, and when there's 32 teams, you know that you're being really well represented. One of the things I'm going to do this year, I'm hoping to do, is if the Lions actually do make it some way down into the playoffs, I'm going to be throwing some parties here. So maybe not on behalf of the show, but just to try and get the Lions fans over here together to have a watch-along show. We could do this YouTube thing, and that would be great with you guys, but to actually meet some Lions fans in person and experience that together, that would be really, really good. Jeremy Reisman's saying, there is no news, but there should be some coming soon, per sources. Ooh, I like sources. Eric Minion saying, yes, let's get them likes up. Thank you for doing that. Appreciate you guys. 56 likes. Great stuff. All right. Lions moves so far today. Let's refresh the tracker once again. So the players that have been cut so far today: tight end Daryl Daniels, kicker Parker Romo, safety Brandon Joseph, running back Benny Snell, and cornerback Starling Thomas V, with cornerback Emmanuel Mosley activated from the PUP. He was facing the first 4 games out on the PUP. The fact that he's activated now means that the Lions believe it's likely that he will play before the 5th game. I mean, God knows when that's going to be. If he plays in game 1, I'll be shocked. I do think that he'll be inactive to start, because I don't think you can throw someone in like that straight away. It just doesn't make sense to me. Phil Phelps is saying that that sounds like trade news to me when it comes to what Jeremy's just said. There's obviously trade rumours flying about. There have been two specifically. One is James Houston. Now, everyone will be angered by me bringing that up. But James Houston played late in preseason game 3. That is not the sign of a player whose stock is high on the agenda of that team. I don't think it really means very much, but it's not a good sign. So, it's one of those things, really. It could be that, when you have an 8-sack season on 100 snaps, that the NFL will look at that player and go, that's going to be worth a lot to me. And then maybe the NFL might value him more than the Lions do. It's not that he's not valuable, but the NFL might think he's more valuable than we think he is. I think his upside is so big, and what he can provide as a backup or as a designated pass rusher is so valuable to this team that I don't see him going anywhere. But if you play late in preseason game 3 because they are protecting the starters, you might be in trouble. Steve Litkin says Aquara would go before Houston. Steve, if you mean Julian, I agree. And if you mean Romeo, I disagree. I think they would prioritise Romeo over James. But I think they would prioritise James over Julian. At the end of the day, Romeo provides much better run defense, and there's not many big ends in this team. Julian and James, there's so much redundancy there. They both do similar things in that I call it Jack linebacker, but the Lions call it Sam linebacker. They both are really good designated pass rushers who struggle defending the run. They've both done much better this preseason compared to what they've done historically. Julian's been hurt here and there. And actually, out of all of that, Charles Harris is the starter in that position. Now, I think that Charles Harris won't play that position very much because we'll probably play 4-2-5 without a Sam linebacker. But when a Sam comes in, I expect Charles to go out to that position. And then you will have probably Kamish coming in to that big end spot or rush end spot or whatever happens with that. But there we go. QQWW saying, I love Houston, but yeah, his trade value is high right now. Last year on contract. QQWW, do not be fooled by the contract. So the Lions have contract control over James Houston for the first 4 years of him being in the NFL. And the reason that they do is the rules that govern any player that has been cut out of their rookie contract or any UDFA. When you're a UDFA or a cut player who's a rookie, who's not a vested veteran, who's got 4 years or more in the league, you are an exclusive rights free agent for the first 3 years. I'm going to confuse myself now. First 3 years. So first year you're a rookie and you just sign. First renewal, second renewal, 3 years, ERFA. If the Lions tender an offer under ERFA, you cannot go anywhere else and play in the NFL. You either sign the tender or you retire. So the Lions have James Houston for the first 3 years, no matter what, under a very cost-control contract. In the 4th year, he then becomes a restricted free agent. The Lions can tender at a right of first refusal, second round, or first round tender. And what that means is, right of first refusal gives them the ability to match any contract offer from around the NFL. Second round or first round tender means that a team can pay that pick to sign that player. And the second and first round tender is a lot more money, like $3 and $5 million or something to that effect. So James Houston will be with the Lions at least for the first 3 years and probably 4 if the Lions want him to stay. So don't worry about James and the contract running out this year because we have control if we want. Zach J saying we cut Starling Thomas, shake my head. I agree. Starling played absolutely lights out, and frankly, he was repping ahead of some of these guys that we've been talking about. So, it seems clear now that Stephen Gilmore is going to make this roster, but arguably Starling Thomas has had the better camp. So, it's a really interesting way that this has happened. I don't know. Steve Litkin saying, honestly, I'd rather have him over both brothers if it came down to it. I think that a lot of people will agree with you, Steve. I do. Alien Vivitas saying Bears have reduced their roster down to 52. I mean, if they actually only wanted to keep the number of players that are actually any good on that team, they might be down to about 18. So, all right. What else has been happening? So, Daniel Whelan is the first Irish-born player, actually Irish, not just claiming Irishness, first Irish-born player to make an active 53-man roster in nearly 40 years. It was a really big news for European NFL. Unfortunately, he's playing for the Green Bay Packers. But there we go. Never mind. And the Rams apparently also do not have a kicker on their team. They released their rookie kicker, Tanner Brown. So, kickers very much in demand. I think we did say already that there have been trades for 3 today. So, let's have a look. Definitely Nick Folk mentioned that. I wish I could remember stuff as well as Ash Soden does, because his memory is exceptional and mine just isn't. Will Lutz went from the Saints to the Broncos. And I was sure there was someone else, but I can't remember. It's Dustin Hopkins, if my memory is right. Adostil says nice, he's in the building on Twitch, and Pride of Detroit saying damn, Matt wielding fire today. The Bears aren't good. I'm just telling the truth. Dylan Nicholson saying, I think we need to consider that we're talking about cutting good players for the first time in a long time. Yes. That there is absolutely no doubt. There are players on this team who are being cut who might have started a few years ago. Unbelievable, really. Man Bear Pig saying it's a good problem to have when the Lions have to cut good players. Indeed it is. Brent in the building saying, Roar the Lions. I thought Houston is a free agent after this year because we cut him and then brought him back, if I heard correctly from Mark Oram. If the Lions do not tender James Houston, he would then be a free agent. But he is an exclusive rights free agent. And by exclusive rights, it means he is exclusively ours if we want him on a very cheap contract. Brent, if you just search for exclusive rights free agent rules or something on Google, you will be able to see what that entails. But when he's cut, he's still not a vested veteran. That means he's still subject to those rules. Carlton was saying, what's everyone's favourite moment from preseason games? I mean, so many good defensive stands. I mean, the Lions went for it very early and often in preseason game 2, and the defense kept balling them out. They kept balling out, but they kept bailing the offense out, and I thought it was really, really impressive. But the favourite moment for me was Teddy's pass to Antoine Green in preseason game 3. At the end of the day, we've been waiting for Teddy to come. It seemed clear that he was going to come. Eventually he did, and looked terrible in preseason game 2. Everyone freaked out. It was probably too much. The fact that he put that ball out there into triple coverage, perfectly on time, to an in-stride wide receiver to take it to the house, it was the moment when all of the noise quietened. And I feel confident in Teddy, and I've always liked him. When he was at the Broncos, when he was at Carolina, when he was drafted by the Vikings, I liked him. He's a good dude, and I mean, God forbid if Jared Goff went down, he could win some games for this team because he plays the game in a similar way to Jared Goff. Super accurate, short passer. That's what Goff does. But maybe Teddy can actually throw it deep a bit as well. You know, it's. I'm not saying that he's better than Goff, because Goff is a top-tier quarterback at this point in his career. Not elite, but he's in that top tier. Alien Vivita saying KC is keeping 7 wide receivers on its 53. Seems high, especially considering they're light at the position, but there we go. Hungry Panda Studios saying, didn't Houston demand to be cut before the Bills game if they didn't start playing him? Holes might hold that against him. I don't recall that, and just listening to him in the not presses, but on the Lions YouTube channel, they obviously go into the locker room after the game, so they did that for game 3, and they talked to James. And considering his draft status, he doesn't appear to me to be a guy who would make that sort of demand, but where, I don't know. Brent saying branch hit due to the commish setting it up. Favourite play. That branch hit was unbelievable. That's the best moment. Oh, just the sound of it. It was very, very addictive. Matt Lewis saying, why are we keeping Harris? I'm presuming you mean Will Harris, because the Lions like him. I don't get it myself. I really don't, but the Lions like him. It's one of those things. There's 151 of you in YouTube, and there's about almost 20 of you on Twitch as well. Absolutely fantastic. You guys, absolute best. Thank you for spending your time with me, with Roar the Lions. Tell you about us. So, Roar the Lions, we're having a look at doing some merch at the moment. I've just bought myself some samples to see how they come out. I'm not holding out any hope, but some guys have been asking for some, and I don't get why, but if some of you want to rep us, then great. Or, I mean, when we're coming over in April, we're going to have to rep ourselves, right? So we've got to get that done. Carlton says, versus Carolina, that bull rush, Corey Durden. I mean, Durden flung the tackle back into the quarterback, and he's DT. It's amazing. So, Roar the Lions, we've been doing this since April 2020. We started because I love the Lions so much that I kept talking to my girlfriend about it, and I had to get it off my chest. I had to have someone to talk to about it. And eventually she just snapped and said, please, can you talk to someone else about this? Just go and, write about it or something. So I started ROTL.com, which really we don't do very much with in terms of the website anymore, but it's still there and we update it when we can. There's a season preview on there right now. Steve Collins wrote one, who's one of our guys. Go and read that. But she just wanted me to stop talking about it because she doesn't do sport at all. She doesn't like sport, and fair play to her. And actually, she gives me a good, relief from when I've had enough of the sport for a little while. It's nice to have a world away from that. But I started the blog, and soon after the blog, I was a member of a UK group, which is called, I can never remember the name of it, Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. One of my now friends runs it, but it's full of really good Lions fans. I think the Tub Thumpers, who are the guys who do tailgating in Detroit with a hot tub that they pour blue liquid into it to make it look like Kool-Aid. They're part of it, and it's just a really fun place to be. Someone in there was asking whether we wanted to start making a podcast as a group. So about 8 of us got together, or 7 of us got together, started talking for about 2 or 3 months just to make sure that we were on the same wavelength about things. We did a few tests, and then we launched in start the season in 2020. So this is season 4. We had 2021, 21, 22, 22, 23, and we're now in 23, 24. So that's how we started. And our listenership has gone from strength to strength. When we started, publicising ourselves was so hard. We started only as an audio podcast. How do you find that stuff if you're so small? Why would you take any notice of us? So the first few plays really were just us listening to it back, just to make sure it was okay. And I've gone back and listened to it since. It wasn't okay. It wasn't good. But we've really refined the process. We've gotten better year to year, and that's been proven in the listener statistics. You guys have stayed with us for the most part, and really appreciate you doing that. But that's how we started, and we've picked up some people along the way who weren't in the original few. So Ryan McCluskey came over, started being a writer for us. We don't really do the writing anymore, but he's now one of our guys who does NFL and college. And if you like college football, you need to go out and check out the College Football Show. If no other reason than to be right up to date with the draft for 2024, which of course is in Detroit. So go and listen to that. It happens once a week. They go into some insane depth. So that's really going to be worth listening to. We also picked up Tom Wilkinson. You can find his video for some of the draft guys on our channel. But really articulate guy, kind of sounds not posh, but he's a well-spoken British man. Used to work for the NFL in some part. I'm not quite sure what his role was there, but he's somewhat well-connected, which is quite cool for us. And Stephen Collins as well we picked up, so he writes for NFL Scotland. And he's also part of us too. So if you want to go onto the website, you can see all about the rest of the guys. And just to tell you about the content that we've got coming up, season prediction show is on Monday. The preview show for the Kansas City game is on Wednesday. I'm going to try and get a member of the British Kansas City Chiefs fan group on with us. So we've had them on for the last 2 draft shows. They're really good guys. They're called Arrowheads Abroad. I'm hoping to get them on to preview that game. And then we'll be live throughout the game reacting to it. So I hope that you can come and watch that with us. Starts at 1:30 in the morning, my time. I think that it's 1:25. I'm sure it's 8:25 Eastern time or something like that. But if you want to have some fun, myself and Ash, we actually do commentary for it, because what else are you going to do? I don't want to sit here in silence and listen to the commentary. So I do the play-by-play. Ash does the colour commentary. It's really good fun. I've always wanted to be a commentator. I like talking. Don't know if you can tell. Somehow carrying this by myself. And I know that some people have turned off the commentary. Some people don't like who's on it and just leave us on and try and sync it up, and that works very well. But there we go. So we've got loads of shows coming up as well as the college stuff. Let's recap what has happened so far then. Lions have cut Daryl Daniels, Parker Romo, Brandon Joseph, Benny Snell, and Starling Thomas V. Emmanuel Mosley was removed from the PUP. He's been activated and can play week 1, although I don't think he will be. Going back in history, yesterday we had Hendon Hooker being confirmed on the NFI list. I thought he was on the NFI list anyway, but maybe it only becomes official at this point in the season. Wide receiver Dylan Drummond was waived in a big surprise to me. Apparently had been the 3rd best wide receiver in camp, had been very consistent. Widely, the beat writers were saying that he'd had a better camp than Chase Cota, who is still a member of this team as of this moment. Otherwise, we also waived or cut the tackles Connor Galvin and Ryan Swoboda, guard Coyote Arashika, cornerback Chase Lucas, quarterback Adrian Martinez, and then going back to the weekend, we cut or waived running back Divine Ozigbo, wide receivers Trinity Benson, Avery Davis, and Jason Moore, tight ends Daniel Helm, center Alex Mollett, tackle Obina Eze and Jermaine Ifedi, offensive lineman Darren Paolo, guard Bobby Price, that's a throwback, defensive tackle Christian Covington, cornerback Colby Richardson, and safety Scott Nelson. Those are all of your cuts so far, and there is 11 decisions left to make. One of them is very, very easy. Nate Sudfeld is still counted as part of the roster, and he should be going to IR because he's got the suspected ACL tear. It is a real shame for Nate. I know a lot of people don't like him. He hasn't played well in the preseason. He had a really good camp to begin with. I do not understand people who want Adrian Martinez more than Nate Sudfeld, because Martinez operates the offense better, and that's true. He has had more command of the offense, and he hasn't panicked as much. But Sudfeld has got a better arm, and, he has shown... He's got a better arm. That's all there is to it. Like, you're not winning any games with either of them, but never mind. Anyway, I'm not going to die on this hill. It really doesn't matter. Ash Soden just said, "Hey buddy, if it's still going when I get home, can I jump on?" Yes, I don't know how much longer I'll be on, but if you get back in time, then absolutely. Jeremy just said he was on the active NFI, now confirmed going to the reserve NFI. That makes sense. Yes, of course, on the reserve list. Thank you very much. Matt Lewis said he's a mobile quarterback and better for practice squad. That is absolutely true. I mean, Nate Sudfeld won't be going to the practice squad simply because he'll be on IR. So, yeah. Brent DeWitt saying Matt's play-by-play, he equals the British Dan Miller in enthusiasm. Anyway, you all got to check it out. It's a lot of fun. Thanks, Brent. The British Dan Miller in enthusiasm. That's quite something. I appreciate that. Hungry Panda Studio says Joseph went from a second-round safety at Northwestern to a UDFA ND safety who didn't make the roster. Joseph is going to catch on somewhere and he'll do well. I wasn't thinking he was going to make it yet, but you can see that he's starting to get it again. I think that a switch flicked for him off during his college career, and I think it started to flick back on. Steve Litkin saying a bit surprised that Maurice Alexander is still rostered. I know he has return ability, but does he play special teams? I mean, we've seen his punt return ability, obviously with a touchdown in preseason game 1. But that job isn't open as far as we know. Khalif Raymond's, that's his job. And we haven't seen him do anything else. And if anything, the preseason has shown us that pretty much anyone on this team can be a kick returner or punt returner, because, damn, we just block very well. And as long as you've got a bit of vision to you, that's all it's really going to take, and a bit of a, well, ball security. So I don't think that's going to play into Maurice's hands. I don't think he's done enough on offense to stay a member of the team. I don't think he's going to get claimed by anyone, unless someone saw that punt return and thought, that's a guy we could have. In which case, sure, if someone's looking for a punt returner, maybe he'll get claimed. But I think he'll very much be a part of the practice squad. Western Lions saying, still can't believe we cut Chase Lucas and kept Will Harris. Well, Harris may be versatile, but he's shite at all positions. Agree. Paul Ginder says Chase Cota is a good return guy. He is a good return guy. Don't think he's making the roster, though, unfortunately. Mark It Zero Dude with the super chat on YouTube for $5. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Says Lions kick KC in the mouth on the 7th. We haven't done our season predictions yet. Honestly, I am scared at what I'm going to say, at what the Lions might do this season, because I'll say this now, because I don't think I'm going to change my mind. I don't think the Lions should be third favourite for the NFC. I think that's too low. But we'll see. Kryptonic TV says, the reason Mo Alexander stays is he caught every return and that matters. Same as Cota. Drummond letting them hit the ground cost him. That might be something. But I don't think that Mo Alexander or Cota are going to make it on that basis either. At the end of the day, we only need one other guy to be a returner who isn't Khalif Raymond. Unless, and we mentioned this yesterday, what if Khalif Raymond isn't the punt returner anymore? Because, and I know he was announced as an all-pro punt returner, but Khalif Raymond is going to be the starting Z this year. He has to be, because, frankly, I don't see Marvin Jones taking that role. Khalif Raymond is the best player to have that sort of speedy position on the outside. He is being paid like a, big rotational piece as a wide receiver, maybe being paid like a starter. You give him $7 million a year. Do you really want him playing kick returner, punt returner? I think he's good enough to be wide receiver 2. From what he's done at the back end of last year, you have a look at that touchdown against Green Bay. But actually, he was doing it before then and the year before, when the Lions were devoid of talent as a wide receiver. He played every position. He played X, Y, and Z. And he was fantastic at all 3 of them. His route running's fantastic, his speed's really good, and he's got good hands. So there's no reason why Khalif needs to play special teams, because frankly, he should be playing every snap. It's a testament to how good this wide receiver core is that he hasn't been up to date, and he's still regarded not as one of the top 3. But I'd actually be concerned if he isn't a starting wide receiver to begin with. We've got the Aussie in the building. The Aussie Seattle girl, Megan Groker, is in the building saying, greetings, boys. Hello to you, Megan. Hope you're well. Obviously playing Seattle in week 2, so not going to get too friendly. But I hope your cut down date is going well as well. Lisa De Lorenzo saying 11 need to go. Those 3, Harris, Sudfeld, and Nelson, would bring that total to 8. I don't see any prospect of Nelson going. I don't know. So Nelson can play left tackle. If you have a look at what the Lions have at the offensive line, if Decker gets injured and you don't have Matt Nelson, and I'm presuming you don't have Max Percher, then the players that can move to left tackle are Penei Sewell, Halapoulivaati Vaitai, or Colby Sorsdal. As far as I'm aware, Sorsdal hasn't played at left tackle. Sorsdal's only played at right tackle at college, a little bit in the NFL, but not really, and right guard. Um, I don't think Vitae can play left tackle. He was a swing tackle in Philadelphia. It's been a while. If you're going to kick Vitae out to tackle, I'd be kicking him out to right tackle because he's on the right side of the line. The muscle memory is going to be at least slightly familiar to him at this point, but it's been long enough that he hasn't played like left tackle. So your only recourse is to move Saul over to the left. Now, obviously, he did that in his rookie year, and it didn't work well. He struggled early. And you are disrupting a fundamental part of the offensive line. I am a big fan of not moving offensive linemen when they are entrenched in their position if you can avoid it in any other way. I think the Lions would have a better line mid-season, if and hopefully not when Taylor Decker goes down. I think the Lions would have a better line putting Matt Nelson in at left tackle than moving Saul from right to left, kicking out Vitae to right, and bringing in Glasgow at right guard. Although the personnel individually are better in that second scenario, disrupting the chemistry between guys is really, really bad. And actually, I think you'd be creating holes all over the place for us to hurt. I'm not a fan of Matt Nelson. I think he's still learning the position, and I think he did get better through the preseason. Certainly played better in game 3. But someone said, where are we? Steve Litkin said we can get someone off the waiver wire to replace Nelson. Unfortunately, the wavered offensive linemen are likely going to be worse in caliber than Matt Nelson. Unless they're being cut for cap reasons, because they're being paid a lot, but actually they're a good player, there are very few good offensive linemen in this game. In terms of left tackles, in terms of good left tackles, there might be 14 good left tackles. Right tackles, there might be 16 to 18 good right tackles. But the number of good tackles in the NFL is only just over 32 in both positions combined. So Matt Nelson being a bit of a liability because he's OT3, yeah, I get it. You don't want that. You want to improve, but every team wants to improve. And this is why people clamour for it in the draft, especially high, because it's really hard to get them free on the waiver wire or anything else like that. Hungry Panda Studio saying, didn't Big V start at left tackle in the Eagles Super Bowl win? I believe you are right, but that was 6 years ago now. 5.5 years ago. It was tough. Ooh, McExperiments just said the Colts have waived Darius Rush, 5th round cornerback this season. I was a fan of Darius Rush. I thought that he was a good player. I'm surprised. You'll see him go to a practice squad somewhere. I can't think that we would give anything up for him. Apparently, there's murmurings that it could be 6 p.m. for some of the information to come out. That's about 35 minutes away. So I might hang on till then and see if anything drops, but we'll see. Drew Howard in the chat saying, are you surprised Brad couldn't cook up a trade? I am. I mean, if it's happened, it might not be announced until tomorrow. So it still might happen. But I think Julian must have been a trade candidate. I am slightly surprised that we couldn't even get a pick swap for him if it ends up not happening. But it's one of those things. You've seen plenty of reasonably good players get cut today with trade interest. So sometimes it just doesn't work out. And if we've learned anything about Brad Holmes in all of the behind-the-scenes videos that the Lions have done, the Inside the Den videos, we found out that Brad Holmes is nothing if not thorough. In terms of getting the UDFAs in here, they left no stone unturned. They always ring the phones. In terms of the trades that we've executed in drafts, they've arranged these ahead of time. They know roughly what the asking price is going to be. They do their groundwork. So if a trade didn't happen, it will be for two reasons. Either Brad didn't want to do it, or it wasn't for lack of trying. And it's time to welcome in the second member to the team, Anthony Fitzpatrick. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I've literally just got away from work, just got home, and I'm just going through everything now. Surprised you're still going, actually. I thought, I'll check, see if he's still there. Oh, crap, he is. I'll come in and help.
Have you seen how many people are watching?
I know. We got loads.
It's
You're a single star. Don't go solo on us.
I absolutely love it.
It's setting up its own empire.
Oh, Giovanni Lyons too, just saying the beard though, and Ant's beard is looking fearsome right now. Apologies to the audio listeners who won't be able to see the majesty that is, but Ant looking sharp, man.
Appreciate it. Had this thing trimmed out the other day and looking pretty. I'm trying to find a new style for me. I need a beard style, and because last year for Movember I did the goatee, which didn't quite work. So I'm looking for something that's a bit more me. So
Oh, if you want something that's in trends right now, why don't you do the bloody handlebars that Kirk Cousins is rocking?
I do not want to look anything like Kirk Cousins ever. I am not a fraud. I am 100% genuine. He is 100% fraudulent. He looks like what's his face out of Dodgeball, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Yeah.
He looks like Ben Stiller's character. Is it Ben? Not Ben Stiller.
It's Ben Stiller.
Oh,
Ben
it is.
Stiller.
He looks like Ben Stiller's character in Dodgeball. That's except he's got more luscious hair.
That is an epic 2000 and I want to say 4, maybe 2005 reference coming in there, and one of the few film references that you've made that I actually understand. So I very much appreciate it. Just want to give some flowers to the guys who've subscribed to us on YouTube: Mike White, Matt Lewis, Alphabet Anthony ABC, and Cody Roder. Appreciate all of you guys for subscribing on YouTube. Big day for us today. And 94 likes as well. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you for that. Pride of Detroit saying, wow, nailed the year 2004. It was a good year. It was a very good year for film. I know, Ant, that you were, let's say, angered about one particular move today. So why don't I give you the floor? Because I've talked about it enough. And you tell us exactly what you think about Starling Thomas and Will Harris.
No, let's not do this because I don't want to berate Will Harris because I've done that enough already. I don't know. It's surprising. It's surprising that so many of the young corners have gone. You kind of figure they were going to take a few more. You don't know where the depth is at this point. So there's still a lot of linebackers left. There's still a lot of edge players left. You know, you would have thought that maybe they'd have gone after some of those first. I've not seen any that have happened in the last 10 minutes or so, if there has been any since I left work. But, you know, it's a shame for Starling, but he did have technical issues. I mean, obviously there was all the holding and bits there. And we've seen players who've struggled with some bits of technical issues getting to this team. You saw it with Logan for years. You know, I've always been a big fan of Logan, but you always heard that he was just having technical problems. There were just some things you couldn't seem to erase out of his game. And that seems to have been the same with Starling, just a little bit grabby, a little bit holdy, but he's done well in most about everything else, in special teams, you know, in his coverage, you know, in the preseason games, in camp, and you're thinking, well, you'd think it was something you'd be able to work with and improve on. And I guess the hope is that he gets through to the practice squad. But as I've been saying now for a few weeks, other teams now know that we have a better grasp on free agency than a lot of others, and that the guys we go and specifically get and maybe starter caliber players, because, you know, the last 2 years has shown we've done it multiple times, and this year we're probably going to do it again as well. So it's harder to get them
Commish
through
is the
waivers.
biggest one of that lot, I would say, in terms of start potential that we've picked up.
Well, Commish was waivers, wasn't he? So, I mean, it can be... Or was it waivers, or did they just outright cut him, didn't they?
He's a vested vet, isn't he? So he would have been cut, yeah.
They cut him, but I think...
Oh, no, we did, because we had waiver priority, and there were eight or nine waiver claims put into him, so it was waivers, I remember.
So, they know that we know good guys on these lists, and I think it's going to be harder for us to sneak some of ours through. And I mean, but I think it does matter a lot what goes on in the games. I know people say, you know, it's the scrimmage practice and that, but Stephen has shown a lot more in the games themselves. He's kind of stood up there. He's had a good camp, you know, not really smashed out, stood out, but then when it's come to the games, he's really done well. He's really shown what he's all about, and I feel that's sort of put the edge over him there. I felt the same with Cotter and Drummond, because obviously Cotter's still knocking around I think, at the minute. I don't think he's gone anywhere because I think he showed a bit more in the games. Now, obviously, preseason 3 had a couple of drops, but for the most part, he was really good. So I think that's what's kept him around a little longer. So I don't know. I think as long as Gilmore makes it, that's good because you can get starters out of these guys, and I think the level of competition has been that high that it is a bit nonsensical that you've been letting all these guys go. And I think you need depth in your corner room. You do. Matt Mosley's coming off a bad injury. And then besides that, you've got to have good depth in there. And I think, it's hard to find sometimes, especially think of all the bad vet corners we've been through. Think of how much we've struggled there. To now be able to fill that room with promising young guys behind seasoned veterans would be good for us. But I don't know. I just feel like it is time for some new people to get a chance here in regards to this. And that's the thing with Will and Julian. This is not just a one-man vendetta I have the same problem with Julian. For me, they've just had too long and not shown enough. And it's time to now give their spots to someone else and try with somebody else. Because I think sometimes you have to. We've kind of had too many guys we've given 3 or 4 years to, and it's just not really panned out. And I can't really think of many of these guys who we've kind of waited 3 or 4 years for to actually become good. So I just think there reaches a point where you kind of got to freshen up a bit. And I thought this might be the year we do it. Now, obviously, these guys can go into the practice squad. These guys, could still be a big part of it, because like Dan says, a lot of these guys are going to be activated during the season. There will be injuries. There will be knocks. There will be times that they need them in. So I think for me, it's just worrying, do we get them back? Because that's where the risk comes essentially is can we get them back? Because if we don't, then we're in a bit of bother because we potentially let some really good players go. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is we'd rather be here. We've not done this the last 2 years on 53-man roster because we've known what the 53-man roster is, apart from kicker. And this year we just don't know, and we still don't know, and it's a good problem to have. So whoever makes it, hopefully they do really well. But I think there are some people who are under pressure to perform this year if they do make it because of the guys we are letting go.
We've just had RoboTix as a first-time chatter on Twitch. Hello to you. Thank you for the message saying, would it be possible for the Lions to cut a veteran like Isaiah Buggs, but let's just say veteran, just to bring him back tomorrow? It is possible. I don't think the stipulation about a veteran has to be there. In fact, I think it's a lot easier to cut unheralded UDFA rookies to get them through. Whether they go on waivers or if they're vested veterans, they all can be claimed by someone. Now, if it's a waiver claim, the player has no choice. If they're claims, they have to go to the person with waiver priority for the claim. If they're a veteran, they can just wait and not sign anything else. But would a guy really not entertain other offers elsewhere if it offers them a better opportunity? So there's always the risk there. But assuming no claims, absolutely possible. And in fact, on the Pride of Detroit podcast and on the where else was it? It was on another show. I think it was on the Detroit Lions podcast. They were both speculating about the possibility of cutting someone and then bringing them back. That was something that they very much talked about. Robotix just saying, I thought veterans didn't have to go through waivers. They don't, but they're still open to offers from around the NFL, and they're under no obligation to us. So
I thought it was if they had more than 4 years, they didn't have to go through waivers.
They don't go through waivers, but they're automatically a free agent with free will to sign a new deal anywhere they like. So they could come back to the Lions on the practice squad, but if someone offered them a place on their 53, why would they come back to our practice squad?
I thought it was after 4 years. Could have been wrong.
No. But you're right. They don't go through waivers.
Okay, yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if they don't have to go through waivers, they're then a free agent. Then we offer them a contract to go onto our practice squad. But if someone else offers them a place on the 53, why would they say yes to that?
But I mean, a lot of those moves are predicated, aren't they? They'll sit down and talk with them and say, look, this is what we want to do with you. Are you okay with this? And the vast majority of the times they'll be like, yeah, sure, that's fine. I mean, another team might come in and steal, but generally at this point, cap-wise, I don't think teams are really going to go out and be like, right, I'm going to give this guy a load of money just to try and snatch a guy who's a periphery guy. I think it's pretty safe with these, I think.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get it's like during cuts, during March and that, some guys, there's a gentleman's agreement between the GMs not to touch players while they're in there, so it could be done one of many ways. But the point is with this year, with so many guys getting cut today, tomorrow's going to be even bigger because you start sorting out your practice squad tomorrow. Your waiver claims get processed tomorrow. So this 53 is not going to be the same 53 as this time in 24 hours. I think last year it happened with Demetrius, didn't it? He made it last year, and then he went down to the practice squad the next day because they got new guys in, and who knows? I mean, we've cut both. Have we cut both kickers? Haven't we now? Was that what I saw?
No. Riley Patterson's still here.
Yeah. Because I know they're thinking of trading for one, so it could be a case of we go no kicker again. I don't know. I mean, it'd be a weird one with Riley, I would assume, because he's got conditional picks attached to him here.
Yes, he does. If he makes the roster, we send a seventh in 2025.
I know, but theoretically, what if we cut him and then took him to the practice squad and then brought him back up? Would that still be viable?
That would be viable, but there are several teams with no kicker on their roster right now. The Rams.
No, I mean in terms of getting round the comp pick. I mean, you still have to comp pick him if you cut him and then got him back.
No, if you got him back, then that would be fine.
Oh,
well, I haven't seen the terms of the trade, but I am presuming if he gets cut, it would void it. I'm presuming.
Yeah.
McExperiment says still we should cut Riley to save the comp pick. It's a 2025 7th, and there are teams literally without a kicker right now. I know Riley Patterson isn't exactly good, but it could be worse. Like, it genuinely really could be worse. So I don't see it. We had a question from Mike Laundry. And cheers to Mike for being with us. There's a conversation in the moment about who was the worst team in NFL history. They're talking about 2008 Lions. They're talking about 1976 Bucks. Or I think the 2016 Browns? 2017 Browns? I can't remember which team it is, but it's one of those Browns teams. Which one was worse? Anyway, Mike asks, who's the biggest release so far? Well, for the Lions, I think it has to be Starling Thomas. But if you talk about not just today, but throughout the whole process, Dylan Drummond genuinely shocked me. Like, there were so many people talking about him as almost not quite a lock, but that he's really played his way into it, that he's the third best wide receiver in camp. He's consistently been better than Marvin Jones, Josh Reynolds, Antoine Green, Chase Cota in the joint practices. And then he played well in preseason game 1 and 3, had a slight blip in 2. I thought he'd done enough. I genuinely thought he would have been the first of those reserve wide receivers in. So him not being there was a shock to me. What about you, mate?
I don't know. I mean,
excuse me.
I am shocked that Starling with Drummond and Cota and Green, I think. So obviously, I have a lot of gripes with Will and Gilmore and all that, but the reason you will always give me all the time is what he can do, the positional versatility, his knowledge of play, etc. Something specific, very incredibly specific that the team looks for. And I kind of get the same feeling with Antoine Green. I know it's 1 year, but you saw in the last preseason game just how capable he is of stretching the field, the sheer pace he had to outrun that entire Carolina defense. And you look at that and you think the team covet that. No, we've got JMO, but we don't for the first 7 weeks of the season. 6 weeks of the season, sorry. We don't have him back till week 7. You don't have a true burner on the team, let's say, who can do that. And when you see him do that on the field, you see what he can bring to it. Dylan Drummond can't bring that. He's not that sort of guy. Is he going to be fighting for snaps against Amon-Ra and Khalif in the slot and all this? Are you going to be able to use him as much? I feel like there's more snaps to be had for Green and Cota and guys like this on the outside than there is for him on the inside, and I'm not saying that's fair. It's not. But
I
I
mean,
think
I didn't
you've got
think
to.
Dylan was an inside guy. I thought he was an outside guy personally. That's
You
where he
can play
plays
him on
in
the outside. You can
preseason.
play him on the outside as well. Yeah, but Green possesses the burner pace,
Yep.
and I
Saw
think
that on the
Cota's
dagger play. What a play too.
exactly. And Cota's got the body. He's got the physical build. So
I
those are
would
the two
still be
things.
absolutely shocked if Kota
If
makes it.
he, no, I would. For me, I'm explaining the rationale as to how they might
Mm.
look at it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Green's
yeah.
Green's Green's got the back breaking speed that we don't really have until JMO's back, and Cota's got the physical attributes to be an outside guy, and there'll be more snaps for those guys on the outside to come in and do something with it. So it's all about making the most of the weapons at your disposal. Because I mean, anyone on the inside is just going to be getting absolutely crammed out for play. We don't need anybody there, especially with Gibbs coming in and playing as well. So, I mean, maybe less of a shock there. I mean, looking around all the others, I do think Starling was a shock. Um, if Eddie, and maybe I know I was never high on him, but you did have good reasons for him being on here. But it
If Eddie
seems
was
that
better than Nelson, and if you
well,
believe Jeff Risdon, there were legitimately people inquiring as to how much he would cost in a trade. If you could get a fifth round pick for him or sixth round pick, why not instead of just outright cutting him? And I realise that it's the team doing a veteran a solid. That's probably what it is. But he's better than Nelson. He is.
I
Uh,
mean, I sort of compared it to Ronald McDonald fighting Mayor McCheese. It's kind of like that, isn't it? It's kind of like them two having a fight together and then just picking the winner. It's still kind of a bit of a clown
oh
figure you've
man.
got there otherwise, who's not going to quite be that guy.
Mm.
But I don't know. I think they did that because I think Sorsdal messed it up for him. You saw how good Corby was the other day, and it's like, right, this is. I'd rather be training him this year in hopefully a team because you've got two good right guards, in Glasgow and Hal. So you shouldn't need to use him much. I'd rather start training him now and having him have the reps on the team than a Feddy, who at most would have been a 1 year guy. I don't think he'd be any more than that. You want to get as many young guys in, taking reps and developing at the next level as possible. Which again is why I'm a little confused about why Starling has gone, why Chase has gone. I mean, I know Chase is a bit older, but it's like, well, get them guys in there because we've got some solid vets in there already. Branch, CJ, they're very versatile. They can do a lot of the stuff, that some of the others can. So I'd really kind of be getting in as many younger guys as possible and building up the next generation of guys in there as well. So they were probably the shockers, but I mean, the big decisions are all still to be made, aren't they? The edge places, Julian, James. I mean, oh my days, I am getting this stuff about James Houston and wanting to trade him is giving me a headache. It's you don't trade away talent like his. You just don't. We're not a rebuilding team who needs the draft capital. We are a team that needs edge at depth. You're a team who needs a bona fide pass rusher. And I mean, I was thinking about this earlier. I can't think of five guys in maybe the last 12 or 13 years who've played for the Lions at edge who've got better talent than he has at rushing the passer. How many years have we struggled to hit quarterbacks? How many years have we struggled to get at them? And then it's like, you get this guy, he's played half a season, and I get he has limitations at this moment in time. You can't play him as a three down guy, but who the hell comes through as a sixth round rookie, gets caught, comes in halfway through his rookie season, just starts and plays and turns into a three down guy in half a season? It doesn't. This is a process that takes time. And it's a process he seemingly took very well to during the offseason. And it's a process that he's looked good at in preseason. You've seen him do more coverage work. You've seen him do more run defense work. It's such a tiny little sample size to go, nah, he's just a pass rusher. He can't do it. Cut him. It's like, if he was on any other team in the league, like, people would be like, he's going to be an absolutely integral part of them next year. He's going to be big. For us, it's like, oh, they might trade him because he doesn't have three down ability. And it's like, get out of here. Get out of here. As much as I like our edge room, Aiden's the only bona fide talent there at the minute. Charles and Romeo are coming off injuries. We don't know what they're going to be like after Romeo is practically 2 years. Charles, it's a year. Pascal, love him, but he's not proven it yet. He's been inconsistent. He's been injured himself. Needs time. Kamish, good. Never going to be elite, but always going to be really good. But outside of that, you don't really have a lot there, especially when it comes to your future just yet. So don't be pulling the plug on him. Don't be trading him because he's absolutely perfect for what we need. Third and long, we need some pressure on the quarterback. We send him in there and, he's a weapon and you use him. So I just don't get where all the trade stuff's coming from. I understand from a business point of view, everyone has the price, but it's nonsensical. Every other reason for the Lions, it's nonsensical. There is no business sense in trading him. Obviously, that decision's not been made yet. So
yeah. No, but you're right. There is the business decision of if they offer more than you think he's worth, then you obviously take the deal. But that's the only reason why you do it. And obviously what the Lions value him at is the key question here. Because if you play that deep into preseason game 3, they think of you less than the players they're protecting by not playing them at all. That much is clear. But I still think they value him highly. And to your point, if we run down this edge group, Hutchinson, Charles Harris, John Kaminsky, Josh Pascal, James Houston, Rome Acquara, Julian Acquara. In all likelihood, in 2024, Acquara, and Charles Harris will not be on the team. At the moment, I don't think you can count on Charles Harris coming back. Now, he might. He took a very, very team-friendly deal to come back. And he may do so again. But Kaminsky's going to be around. Pascal's on his rookie deal. Hutchinson's on his rookie deal. We need an edge 4. And Houston's going to be that guy. So, just in terms of like a pure depth position, we've got control of him for the next 3 seasons on a very cheap deal. People talk about his contract length, but we can keep rolling it over and he doesn't get a choice in the first 3 years. So I think he's going to stay.
He should. And it makes sense for the Lions because you're in a perfect position this year. You've got 2 good vets in there. However, you can develop all your young guys. You can spend this year developing Houston to expand his horizons, to do a bit more. You can give Pascal more common reps as a starter. You can let Aiden continue to be the absolute powerhouse that he's going to be. And then by the end of this time next year, hopefully you can say to Romeo and Charles, we love the hell out of you. Thank you ever so much. Go out there, get paid, go get your deals. Or alternatively, one of you come back and, do the same again if you feel that you need to. But then, like you said, you have how much money are you putting into your edge room? None. All on rookie contracts and Kamish, who's on a very friendly deal. And then what does that allow you to do? It allows you to spend your money elsewhere, be it you're going to give a contract to Jared Goff, be it you're going to give a contract to Jonah Jackson, be it you're going to start giving contracts to Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, all these other guys to have such a good cap situation in your edge room allows you to keep your players elsewhere. So from a roster building standpoint, it makes 100% sense that you keep all these young guys in there and developing them. Because if you have those 4 as your edge guys next year, your main ones, you had some depth guys around them, another vet or whatever, it's a win-win-win-win for the cap. And it allows us to do other things to keep other guys in positions of need that we might not be able to otherwise. So that's smart business sense as well, if you don't take the draft picks into the equation. But you just don't trade bona fide talent. Houston would have made every Detroit Lions team for the last 20 years, given the lack of edge depth we've ever had here before. Don't go cutting him now just because you think you're safe. You're never safe, and there's too many variables in the others. If Romeo and Charles were healthy and coming off good seasons, then you consider it. But they're not.
Yeah, Brandon Kez just said, don't forget Hutch, he will be big money. And as the 2nd overall pick, he is on a fair whack of money. But if you compare what he's probably going to produce on the field and what that would cost on the open market, we're getting him still at a significant discount to his market value. If you have a look
for 3 years.
Yeah, we've got a bona fide edge 1, and he's probably getting 7-8 mil a year. It's something like that.
think he's
But
on 9 this year.
but he would be getting 18 on the open market. It's a
Yeah.
significant discount. We did have a comment much earlier on about when I talked about Patterson from Jeremy from Pride of Detroit, just saying it's funny how quickly people went from the Lions screwed up cutting Patterson last year to cut him now when he's the same guy he's always been. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. That there's just a certain section of fans who think that every single move the Lions do is bad in some way. So
I can't remember my initial thoughts when we cut him before.
I
I don't want to contradict myself, but I don't. I've always been in the Parker Romo camp. I have. I mean,
you
Riley's
have
always,
you have
but Riley's always been sold on the idea that the kicking from within 40 is good, and he's struggled with that in camp by all accounts, and he's not. And he's missing, you're missing points after in preseason. I know they're preseason games, but you're doinking from 53. 53 is not exactly that far in the grand scheme of
it
things.
is his
now.
career long though.
I know it is his career long, but it's like you still want a guy who's capable of doing a bit of both.
Yeah,
I mean, he's just
I know, but apart from
it's tough. I've got nothing against if he's. I don't think I had a problem when he was kicker here. I thought he was very serviceable, and serviceable is all you need. And to be honest, I'd rather be in a position where my kicker doesn't matter. Like where my offense is converting enough drives into touchdowns that I'm not relying on 6 or 7 field goals to win a game. You want someone who's just serviceable and can be clutching every bit and every now and then, but you never stop looking with kicker. I mean, it's just a position you always have a look at and see what you can get, and you carry on going. I still maintain it's like, because people talk about Prater and that. I said it 2 years ago when we were cutting. It was good that we did it early because you've got to get this problem out the way. And if you're seeing kicking problems can plague you for years. Thankfully, we've been in a situation where we've had 2 down years rebuilding this roster, and as so far it has not affected us. Now we're starting to get into the serious business where it will, but we'd have maybe been in an even worse situation if we kept Prater for longer. At least we've got a lot of the bad out of the way with it. And, it's just very tough. But, kickers are down. You can find them from anywhere. Someone can break out from having never done it before. It's a tough situation. But if he's the kicker this year, I'm not going, oh my God, we're in bother. I'm just like, okay, he's fair. He should be all right.
Yeah. Steady, room for improvement. We'll keep looking. I don't think I wouldn't be cutting Riley to try and sneak someone else on the roster, because there are teams like the Rams who have no kicker, and then suddenly we might be taking someone worse than Riley Patterson because we're desperate. We don't need to make ourselves desperate. If someone better comes along, we can cut him. And that isn't worth the 54th man on the roster. It's not.
No.
So,
No.
Yeah. Just want to take a quick time out here to talk about the rest of the content that we've got coming up in the next 10 days, of course, with the NFL season kicking off just around the corner next Thursday. So, coming up later this week, we have the College Football Podcast. And this year is the year to watch the College Football Podcast. And our very own Ryan McCluskey do an absolutely fantastic job breaking down college football. And if you haven't listened to it before, but you think you might have been tempted, because the draft is in Detroit this year, you want to be the best informed you can be going into the draft. And there's no better way to invest your time than listening to them do it. So far, they've profiled all of the Group of 5 conferences and the independents, so the lesser-known FBS Division 1 schools. Go and check it out. It's been some really good stuff. And then this week, they're going to be talking about Week 0 just gone and Week 1 to come. Later on, we've got the season prediction show on Monday, September 4. And I will roast anyone who picks less than 9 wins. If anyone picks less than 9 wins, I'm going to be mad. Wednesday is our Lions at Kansas City Chiefs preview show before the game itself on Thursday. On Thursday, we will be live throughout the game, no matter how long it takes. It starts at 1:30 in the morning UK time, and we will be there throughout. I believe that it'll be myself and Ash on the call. I'll be doing play-by-play commentary. Ash will be doing the colour stuff. it'll go on for a long time, but damn, it's going to be worth it to open the season with a victory in Arrowhead, and I hope you can all join us for that. And then we'll be doing our review show later on that week. The college podcast will, of course, be back that week too, probably looking at week 1 that's just been and week 2 to come. I can't believe, Ant, how many shows we've got in the next week and a half, but it's going to be fun to look at this 53-man roster go to work.
Yeah, real football's back now, and this is business season. It feels a lot more important this season because of the expectations this year. This is the first time. I mean, how long ago were you legitimately this excited for a season? Like, think about it. When were you this excited for a Lions season? That is an actual question. Because for me, it's been a very long time since I've had a feeling like this. I feel confident that we can go out there and go toe to toe with some of these really big teams, because most years I would take one look at our road schedule this year and I would struggle to see where the wins were coming from. I'd be like, man, we are going to get swept. We're playing at Green Bay, as we always do. We're playing at Kansas. We're playing against the Chargers. We're playing against the Ravens. We're playing against some really fierce opposition. And this year I'm like, you know what? There's absolutely no reason we can't beat the Chargers on the road. There's absolutely no reason we can't give the Chiefs a good game on the road, especially with their holdout, Chris Jones. That's huge. We win on the trenches, and if he's not there to anchor that defensive line for them, it gives us a massive kick in that game, and we can control the trenches, and we can absolutely beat them. The Ravens, if you can stop them running, we can beat them. I've never been this confident in so long, and so it just feels like all the shows, all the previews, everything just has a bit more added importance to it this year. Because while it's all been great, the last 2 years we kind of known it's been a bit. We've known what's coming, really. It's been a painful growing process, but this year it's like, are we going to see the fruits of it this year? So
yeah,
it just everything feels added importance going on this year.
Ken Stauder asked a really good question, which is $940,000 the new NFL minimum salary this season? And here is the answer for you, because it is not that straightforward. The amount of minimum salary depends on the number of years you have played in the league. If you are a rookie, it's $750,000. If you've played 1 year, $870. If it's 2, it's $940, as you say. So that's the 2-year salary. If you've played for 3 seasons, it's $1.01 million, and so on. If you are a 10-year vet, if it caps out at 7 years. 7 and more is $1.165 million. That is the minimum salary in the NFL for a long tenured vet. Mike Laundrie says, has Sudfeld officially been cut yet? Sudfeld won't be cut. He will be going to IR, and frankly, he will show up for the Lions next year, probably, at least to try out.
Surprised he's not been designated yet. I mean, it would feel like one of the easiest calls to make. An ACL tear, he's done. So you would assume they'd just put him on PUP and be done with it, but it's not been made official yet. I mean, they can't cut him now, can they? He's injured. They'd have to give him a settlement to cut him, wouldn't they? Now that he's been hurt playing for us.
Yeah, he'll earn his entire salary, and if it's an ACL, he won't be back this season. That'll be him done.
No. I would have thought that call would have been one of the very first made, but that's one left. So I don't know how many moves officially are left, but I mean, we've only released 3 or 4 today, so there must be another 8 or 9 to go.
According to the Pride of Detroit tracker, go and check out prideofdetroit.com. We have released 5. We've also brought back Mosley, so net 4. And that leaves us with 11 decisions to make. We have 64 remaining players, but Sudfeld is one of them.
So I've seen Easy said in the LNU chat they're releasing it at 6. So that's 2 minutes. They're releasing it all.
Yeah, I mean, so as Jeremy rightly says on Twitch, they've made every move, we just haven't heard of it yet.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, every single team, and I said this jokingly, but it's fun to imagine it this way. On pain of death, each team is now at 53. They must be. They have to be. If not, they end up losing or financial penalties, and then they end up losing draft picks. Like, the league does not take kindly to this. And we're going to be welcoming in another member of the team in just a second, with Ashley Soden coming in.
And all the waiver claims will be done as well. So let's all just wait to hear.
How you doing, Ash?
I'm okay. Totally did not sprint back from the bus stop to make sure I got home in time to discuss the news whenever it breaks.
Jeremy's just confirmed there will be a Pride of Detroit stream when the cuts come in, if the cuts come in today. I was reliably informed by someone on stream when I started that the Lions fully revealed all of their cuts at 11 p.m. Eastern time last year, so 4 a.m. our time. So we could be here a while.
I don't have work tomorrow. I can wait around.
I'll go and get the coffee pot on.
I mean, I am very much ending the stream at some point before then. Probably in the next half an hour, to be honest. I do have work in the morning, so there we go. Frog Crop says he thinks 13-4 or 12-5. I think you're in the ballpark.
There's been some really surprising cuts today, though, around the league. I mean, like some other teams, I don't know what they're doing. It's like New England's let all the quarterbacks go. What's Bailey Zappi done wrong to not get added there?
Kenyon Green was placed on IR before the deadline, and his season is done for the Texans.
Didn't they trade for him?
Yeah, they traded. No, they traded for another guard today. They traded for. Give me a sec. I think I'll post it.
So Kenyon Green was the late round guard, wasn't he? That they second round pick.
It was a sixth, wasn't it? They got through. Didn't they give him a sixth for him? I think. It was a day 3 pick. I think it was a sixth. Rap said.
Well, the trade. Yeah, hang on. Texans trade. They traded for Kendrick Green from the Steelers.
Yeah, there we go. Zach J, yes, Bailey Zappi got released, and the Pats only have one quarterback on their roster. Pride of Detroit saying that Tom Brady apparently is coming out of retirement to back up him. There we go. You heard it here first. Well, you didn't. You literally heard it from them first. But thanks, Jeremy.
Hang on. If someone said that to him on stream, he'd kick them off for saying that. That's the sort of joke he wouldn't tolerate in his direction. So,
I mean, it's not a joke. He's literally said it.
Matt, the news has dropped. Cuts are dropped.
Right.
Give me a sec. We have. No, they've tweeted the link from 2 days ago.
Yeah, Oh,
thanks,
bastards!
Psych.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, the Lions announced the following roster moves, and it's literally just.
Here we go. Got it. Hendon Hooker to the NFI reserve. Mosley passes physical. Placed on reserve suspended Jameson Williams. Placed on injured reserve Nate Sudfeld. Waived with injury settlement Max Percher, Parker Romo, Chris Smith, Ryan Sabroda, and Starling Thomas V.
So Craig Reynolds is gone. And Jermar Jefferson.
Yep. We kept only 3 running backs: Montgomery, Gibbs, and Kabinda.
Kabinda isn't a running back.
He's a fullback, but I'm just literally reading Dave Paquette's tweet.
Dave Paquette. Okay, let's go and find Dave Paquette just so I can read it. Flipping heck.
Well, that's the 3 running backs was the tweet.
But Chase Cota with an injury designation as well.
Yeah, Ryan's put the Justin Rogers tweet that says it all in the Discord.
Wow. Cota gone. Jesus. I expected Cota not to make it, but injury settlement is interesting given that he wasn't waived with injury.
Yeah, he's just completely gone.
But they must think that Craig Reynolds is coming back to them.
Yeah.
They must think that Craig Reynolds is making it back to... No! Right, so Iffy to IR, Craig Reynolds gets re-signed. Calling it now.
So they've kept the entire edge room. All 7 of them.
All 7 of them stay.
Oh.
Jesus. Mike Laundry just said, wait, Jameson IR. No, Jameson's on suspension.
Suspended list, yeah. Reserve suspended, so he'll be out technically.
Tony Haven said, can you repeat all of that again? Because we did it quite quickly. So let me repeat that. Placed on injured reserve, Nate Sudfeld. Waived with an injury settlement, Chase Cota. Waived injured, Jermar Jefferson. Presuming that he makes it through waivers, he will revert to the Lions roster in injured reserve. Released, tight end Daniels, running back Craig Reynolds, running back Benny Snell. Waived, so these guys haven't accrued enough years in the NFL to be outright cut. They are waived, and their contracts are valid until noon Eastern time tomorrow, and they can be claimed by anyone up until that point. Maurice Alexander, Coyote Awasika, Brady Breeze, Brad Cecil, Dylan Drummond, Corey Durden, Connor Galvin, Brandon Joseph, Chase Lucas, Adrian Martinez, Trevor Nowaski, Max Percher, Parker Romo, Chris Smith, Ryan Swoboda, Starling Thomas V. This is fantastic news for several people. One is Antoine Green, who makes it. There was some question as to whether he wasn't going to. Obviously, his good game and getting preseason game 3 was big for him. All the tight ends make it. I don't think anyone was worried about that. Matt Nelson has made it. Colby Sawsdall, thankfully, has made it. The defensive line, Durden and Smith didn't make it, but that means that Benito Jones is in, Levi Onwuzurike is in, Broderick Martin is in. All of the edge players, both acquirers, Houston Pascal, Kamish, they're all there. The linebackers, Nowaski didn't make it, but Anthony Pittman did, along with Jaden Reeves-Maybin, Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez, and the other 2 top players. Khalil Dorsey made it, Stephen Gilmore made it, and in the safety room, Melifonwu made it along with Walker, Joseph, and Johnson. So it's a heck of a list. Ken Button is right. The Lions must be picking up another running back. I really wouldn't be surprised if it's Craig Reynolds. So,
yeah,
to what was being discussed in Twitch earlier, because he's a veteran, he isn't subject to waivers. And while I was saying it doesn't really matter, people might extend to him offers and he is free to consider them. But he may well return to the 53-man roster after someone goes to injured reserve, possibly Fatu Melifonwu. We've heard that that's a possibility the whole way through.
It happened last year with Garrett Griffin. I can't remember who we had to put on IR. It actually might have been Iffy again.
Yeah.
But we cut him and then resigned him sort of the next day after putting Iffy onto IR.
And then Derek Beadleman saying, so Julian made it, ? Yes, Julian made it. And reaction.
I mean, there's a lot to take in there, an absolute lot. I didn't foresee the running back room getting gutted so bad, and I didn't foresee the edge room remaining entirely intact. But I mean, let's forget about that. Let's give praise to the guys who have made it, because there are a lot of guys here who have busted their ass off and who've made it onto this team, like Stephen Gilmore. Made the roster, coming from Marshall, undrafted, just went about his business in the offseason, didn't make many waves, but he's worked hard. And when preseason's come and camp has come, he's really shown out, and he is 100% worthy of a spot on there. Same with Dorsey. I mean, the mental fortitude to come back from that injury to Zylstra, and he must have had the rollicking of all rollickings after that tackle and what happened there. And for a guy who's already probably one step out the door because he's so far down the depth chart, for him to come back and make it onto this team through just sheer hard work and determination, and to beat out the likes of Starling Thomas and Chase Lucas is unbelievable, quite frankly, that he's made it. So again, you've got to give him huge props for being able to make it on the roster. Levi's made it. Nobody thought Levi was doing anything at the start of this year. Myself included. Even I really like him, and you just didn't know the injury severity. And for him to come back from basically been forgotten about to again coming back into camp, just going about his business. People were mocking him, saying, oh, look, he can't bend, he can't do anything like this. He's gone through his recovery how he's needed to go through his recovery. He's ramped it up when he's needed to ramp it up. He's taken the contact, he's done the dirty work, he's gone into preseason, and time again, when a question has been asked of him, he's responded and turned up to the challenge. And there's a lot of depth room in there. You want to take a Corey Durden with you. You want to take a Christian Covington, someone like that who had come in and done well initially. For him to just come in and beat all them out and get themselves a spot on the roster, it's absolutely wonderful. And it's so good to see so many of these guys coming in, putting in the work, getting and getting the results from it. Antoine Green, he got drafted, but there's been an unbelievable amount of pressure on him from Drummond and Cotter, who have really run him close with this. And he's like, you saw in preseason 3 that the urgency was there. It's been talked about the consistency with him. He needs to show it a bit more. And whatever he's done, he's shown enough to them in the games and in training to say, look, he's worthy of being a camp body here when there were lots of other worthy candidates as well. So I'm just really happy for some of these guys who've made it, who had a lot of question marks over them and have shown up against the adversity there. So first and foremost, I just want to give praise to those guys. It's great, and I'm looking forward to seeing them this season.
I've just had a command for myself to hydrate via a new viewer who is Noel Scobarbara, who says, hydrate twice with 100 channel points. I'm going to have to go and get myself a drink, boys, so you'll have to hold down the fort for me for a second. But I'll go through the full 53-man roster in just a second, because I think it's worth saying all the names, to be quite frank. But if you guys can just hold the fort for me for 2 seconds, I'll be right back.
Yeah, a lot to take in there. A lot,
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think the one thing we know, Ash, this 53 probably still going to change a little bit, but it is a 53 who is... They've all earned their spots here because the competition's been that deep at every spot that it's like, you've just got to say well played to these guys. And yeah, this potentially one of the best teams we've had in a long time.
Yeah, well, hang on. Did you say that everyone on the 53s deserves to make it? Are you finally giving Will Harris some well-deserved praise?
No, I am not giving... But at the same time, I'm not... He's a Lion. Will Harris and Julian Aquara are Lions, and when they're on the roster, I will back them to the hilt like I do every player. I can be annoyed with the circumstances and that, but at the end of the day, there are guys, and only I can criticize them. You can Bears, Packers, Vikings fan. You criticize either of them, you're going to get done. But it is. They will have earned their spot here. You can't say they haven't, because the competition's been heavy. Julian, that preseason 1 game for Julian was 3 sacks, and it was insane, and because he had to. So ultimately, he's made a statement and said it. But it's just going to be a very, very talented team this year, and a lot of these guys, if they get back to the practice squad, a lot of these starters, a lot of these 53, they're not going to get a single day off, because if they take 1 day off, their ass will be out the door, and these guys will come up off the practice squad.
Yeah, well, obviously we've gone through, but people like Drummond, Durden, Parker Romo, they're pretty high candidates for me to get back to the practice squad. And players can already start choosing if they want to go to practice squads, because I know I've seen it earlier. Laquan Treadwell, he's supposedly already agreed to sign with the Ravens practice squad tomorrow. So it's not like we're cutting them now and we have to wait 24 hours. It can slowly leak out if they already decided to join our practice squad again. It might leak out in the next 24 hours or so. So it's not the end of the road for these guys. Obviously, we've still got high hopes. The one disappointment for me, in terms of not really a cut, but obviously someone that's gone on IR, is Jamar, because he did look really good. And unfortunately, unless he gets the old injury settlements in the next couple of days and then does the whole thing that CJ Moore did last year, he's out for another year. And it's a waste, because he showed out in this preseason. I know, obviously, I'm not the biggest fan on the show. That's obviously Ant. But I was hoping that he would be able to sort of sign with the practice squad. And then if we need him, if Monty or Gibbs or Craig gets hurt, to be able to call him up. So maybe we need to look around the league and see if we can get a practice squad running back, because other than corner and maybe the Lions, running back is like the most high impact position. So I want a bit more depth there.
I mean, James the likes of James Robinson are there. They've been cut, haven't they? So maybe they've identified someone who's been cut, who they figure actually even more depth. You just don't know at the minute. It's
Miles Gaskin, Melvin Gordon are the 2 that I'm looking at personally.
What, Miles blown gasket.
That's the one.
Just Melvin, not Flash Gordon.
Just want to give a big shout out to Mike the Marine, who has gifted 5 subs on Twitch. Thank you so much, Mike. Massive supporter to us. Really appreciate you. 5 subs. One each to you, Fly Odd Condor, GA2 Skip, Ice Cecil, Kid8200, and T-Bone7698. Thank you very much for that. Let's recap what I think Ant was just describing as the deserving 53. Because I think very much so, all of these guys, in some form or fashion, somehow, some way, they deserve to be there. Quarterbacks are 2, Jared Goff and Teddy Bridgewater. By the way, I'm taking this from Pride of Detroit, so just go and look at it up there if you want to have a reference written. But here we go. Goff and Bridgewater. Running backs, there are 3, including fullbacks, with David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jason Kabinda. Wide receivers, there are 5. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, Marvin Jones, and Antoine Green. Tight ends, there are 3. Brock Wright, Sam Laporta, James Mitchell. Offensive linemen, there are 8. Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnow, Halapulavati Vaitai, Penny Sewell, Graham Glasgow, Colby Sorsdal, and Matt Nelson. That makes 5, 10, 13, 21 offensive players, which is a shockingly low number. But there we go. On the defense, interior defensive line, defensive tackles and nose tackles, Aleem McNeil, Isaiah Buggs, Levi Onwuzurike, Benito Jones, and Broderick Martin makes 5. Edge players, all 7 survive. Aiden Hutchinson, Charles Harris, John Kaminsky, Josh Pascal, James Houston, Romeo Okwara, and Julian Okwara. Linebackers, there are 6. Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Malcolm Rodriguez, Derek Barnes, Jalen Rees-Mabin, and Anthony Pittman. Cornerbacks, there are 7. Cameron Sutton, Jerry Jacobs, Emmanuel Mosley, Brian Branch, Will Harris, Stephen Gilmore, and Khalil Dorsey. Safeties, there are 4. CJ Gardner-Johnson, Kirby Joseph, Tracy Walker, and Ifeatu Melifonwu. And special teamers, there are 3. Jack Fox, Scott Daly, and Riley Patterson. That means that there are 29 defensive players to 21 on offense. Absolutely shocking.
That will obviously, we know it's going to change in a few days. It will. Iffy and or Julian will probably go to IR, and then those spots probably go to another running back and maybe another wide receiver, maybe. Or because I doubt there's going to be a O-lineman worthy of being picking back up, unless it's like a Fedi. Unless a Fedi agrees to come back to the 53.
Oh, don't worry. The trade option's still open for wide receiver. That's not dead
Oh,
yet.
yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I forgot. Wide receiver. I know. Yeah.
we've still got the trade options open there with them. But yeah, I still expect to see movement at offensive line, at running back. I think those will be the 2. And I think those will be the 2 they've targeted on waivers. I would expect to see more O-linemen here. I would expect to see another running back here. But I mean, I suppose the good thing is you don't really need a running back 3 with Monty and Gibbs, I guess, if you're in that situation. You can just sort of stash the guys away on practice squad and put a position elsewhere. It's a bit of management and that, but I don't know. This isn't over yet, but I'm still very excited about this roster. The starting 11 on each side of the ball are impressive, and it's going to be a great team this year. And the now thing is we've got great depth, something we've not had in forever and a day. We've got great depth at most positions, so we're primed to go, even if we take a few injury hits. Even at quarterback now, everywhere on this roster, just about, we're safe if there's an injury. So
yeah. I mean, it's a far cry from a couple of years, 2 years ago, when we were cutting the likes of Rashad Perriman and Nickel Robert Coleman and all that.
It just makes me want to cry with joy. Some of these positions, I mean, you look at the corners and you're just like, oh my God, they could all start. There's not 2 overpaid, ridiculously bad veterans and 7 special teamers with them. It's like, they can do everything now. It makes you cry. How far this team has come in 2 years. We would not have predicted after 2 seasons that it's like, oh yeah, you're going to have a great start in 22 and depth with it. It's like, you look at the team and you're like, no way. You're not going to have a core built out the draft and a lot of young guys in and some high-level vets to go with them. It's just sheer wizardry how this has been done.
Yeah, I'm looking. I've got the 2021 roster up. So the final, as in, might.
This is gonna make me cry.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is actually like the final, as in like the last week, maybe. Yeah, but I'm looking at some of the players like the defensive line. We've gone from having obviously Aleem and Levi, the two holdovers from that. We've gone from having Michael Brockers, Deshaun Cornell, and Nick Williams on the D line to now having Broderick Martin, Benito Jones, Zaire Buggs. We even have the depth we said with Durden. Like it's a lot better.
It's such a shift from where we were. It's ridiculous. I actually had a question with one bit cheering on Twitch called Another One Bites the Dust, which is a great username. Says, didn't they just keep 2 running backs last year on cut day? And I've had to refer to Pride of Detroit's Cut Down Day 2022 article. And there I see that we kept 4 running backs last season. DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, Craig Reynolds, and Jermar Jefferson. Jason Kaminda was not on that list.
He was injured.
Yeah.
There we go.
So
we have 4 running backs and no fullback.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Griffin, but
But we've got the depth this year now. Like
exactly.
Everywhere. I mean, it's crazy what a difference a year makes. But well, when you hit on, we hit on Kamish, all of a sudden the edge room's deep as anything because Romeo was injured at that point. Charles was injured. Aiden had only just come into the league, and Houston had been cut. It was like, even just 12 months ago, this edge room was just like, oh my God, how bad is it compared to what it is now? I mean, all these 7 guys at edge would have started for us 5 years ago. Like, that's how bad our edge room was. Now we have literally, I think that was back when we had Kerry Hyder and the last year and the last couple of years of Ziggy Answer when he was bad.
Kerry Hyder would have gone in 2018,
I think.
No, Kerry Hyder was here 2018. So our edge room then was Romeo, Kerry Hyder, Mitchell Llewellyn, and Eric Lee. I dare you to tell me where Llewellyn is these days.
No idea.
Walmart.
Yeah, because the only other team he played for after us was the Saints for a year. Eric Lee went to the Patriots. Only's the offseason. He's not here. He's not in the league anymore. Looking around,
and Romeo was a cast-off back then. Romeo wasn't good Romeo back then. That was us just taking a punt on a guy who'd failed in New York. That just sort of shows you, like, all 7 of our guys now are better than all them back then. I know Hyder's done well since, but with us, he was rubbish, and Answer was declining.
No! Kerry Hyder was good for us. That's why he got the opportunity. He got injured, and that's why we released him.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give that. But at the end of the day, you look, it's night and day now.
Oh, do you want me to prove it even more? Can you name at least one of our 2018 tight ends?
Ooh.
Exactly. That just proves my point. It's the fact you're having to think.
Oh, no. That had been when we had, was it Levine? When we have Levine back then?
Levine Tailolo, yeah.
And then whoever we let go to Green Bay. Tonya. Was Tonya back then?
No, he was a D lineman back then. He was practice squad D lineman back then.
Oh, so it would have been Levine, and it would have been
Levine.
Rubbish one.
I do know this. Oh, I hate it.
Would you like initials?
Yes.
JC and LW.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember Levine, but I don't remember.
Yeah, Levine. He was a big mother. He was a big mother trucker.
So one of them was the guy that we let the lacrosse player who went Logan Thomas. Surely no.
He was
Logan Thomas
was.
He was earlier than he was both earlier and later than that, and he was a former quarterback turned tight end, not lacrosse.
Derek Beagleman just said we had Ebron in 18, did we not?
No, not on not on this one. The final roster I've got here. I think Ebron was...
And we're not exactly using Eric Ebron as a level of high quality here.
Who are the guys?
Jerome Cunningham and Luke Wilson.
Who and who?
Exactly.
That's all I'll say there. Everywhere across the board, this team is stronger than it's been in a decade. I mean, everywhere. I mean, I guess you would, at DT when you got Sue and Fairley, but most all the other departments are probably the best units they've been in a long time. That's just how good this team is now. It's got quality depth. They can afford to let these players go. Year 1 and year 2 under Brad, not their fault. You could pretty much name the entire 53, which is never good because you're just scratching around trying to find enough players who've got some semblance of talent who make a 53. This year, it's like there are way too many guys. You could probably have kept. They'd have probably kept 65 if they could. I reckon they could have been legit 65 guys on this roster if they kept everybody they wanted to.
Just want to give a big shout out to James A. McClaw, otherwise known as McExperiment on Twitch, who has tipped $3 using our tip link that is in the description down below. He says, "Congratulations to the final 53. Thank you for broadcasting to help us get through the final hours until the announcement. Thank you for the donation. It's much appreciated." And lots of guys giving thanks to us, which is really, really nice. Tony Haven saying, "Yeah, you guys are the only one live for this season's 53 news drop. Great, amazing kind of coup for us to get that in." He said, "You just got my sub, buds. Appreciate you, man." Gary Super saying, "Man, love you Brits. How you'll be one pride, baby." I hear that in Detroit twang, and I absolutely love it. Yeah, love from Kerry Hyder there for Lisa Di Lorenzo. Lisa asked who you think the starting kick returner is going to be now that Chase Cota's gone. Might it be Khalil Dorsey, she thought?
Yeah, I would think Dorsey because he did it in preseason game 3, didn't he, against the Panthers?
I mean, if you listen to Ryan McCluskey, he'll swear dead that it will be Jahmyr Gibbs.
I mean, it depends on the situation. Like if
not with 2 running backs on the roster, there's no. I'm not putting Jahmyr.
Well, that's going to
in
change.
Harm's way.
Obviously, that's going to change. But
right now, no, not until that running back room's stacked. Not going to do that.
Well, I think Green takes a couple of kickoffs in college.
Yes, he did, but not many. Austin Damon just said, "Are we better now at wide receiver than we were when we had Calvin, Marvin, and Golden?"
Oh, well, I mean, we're talking very rare occurrences here, aren't we? I mean, there are very few departments where we're not at the best we've been in a decade. Of course, we're not at wide receiver. There's just no way, because we don't have, like, the 3 guys. You don't have X, Y, and Z, who are ultimately there. Again, I think the depth behind them is better. Because, I mean, you name those 3 guys, but name the depth behind them in those years. And I think you would struggle to name the depth there. I mean, tight ends, we've had some individually very good tight ends, but never a room this deep. Offensive line has obviously never been this good, like ever. I mean, quarterback.
Hang on.
Jared's playing the best quarterback play we've seen in Detroit for a very long time. Very confident. Certainly not. That is not a shot at Megatron and Tate and that. I reckon at most of our positions we're at least top 2 in units we've had in like the last 10, 15 years.
I mean, the last year we had Calvin, by my estimation, was 2015.
Sounds about right.
And then so we had Calvin, we had Golden Tate, but then the other 3 were Corey Fuller, TJ Jones, and Lance Moore, because Marvin was was signed to replace Calvin. So I would actually argue, I know we don't have Calvin, but the depth, as you said, the depth is definitely better. Like Gold, Tate.
The trio, when it was best as a balanced unit, was Golladay, Jones, and Tate.
Yeah.
But my answer to the question was individually, no, we are not better. But when you take the players we have and the scheme fit with the quarterback, we are more efficient. And it's a better overall offense than... Like, out of context, no, and in context, yes, is the answer. I've been drawn to, my attention has been drawn from the chat to the Pride of Detroit tweet 20 minutes ago about Craig Reynolds. It says, "Seems likely that Craig Reynolds will be back. He was released, meaning he's not subject to waivers. The Lions may be putting a guy on IR tomorrow, Julian ? And that would open up a spot for Reynolds to return. As I kind of said before, I think that Craig will be back. I on the 53, not on the practice squad. I think he'll be back.
Yeah. I think Eric also tweeted something kind of similar.
Right, I'm just going to get this out there. If Julian ends back on IR, there's a point where you've got to cut ties and say enough is enough.
Yeah.
Because this is getting worse than Deshaun Hand now at this point.
Oh yeah, he got a cut early today by the Dolphins as well. If you're
Deshaun got cut, and it's just like there's got to be a point where he says enough is enough. It's just not going to happen, and give that roster spot to somebody. We're not short at edge. You've still got 6 otherwise, and it's just a bit
exactly So found the Eric tweet that's similar. So Eric is replying to again about the Craig Reynolds cut. My guess is that they're looking to place a defender or 2 on IR, and Craig Reynolds was the veteran pick to be released. He had no guarantees, equals no cap hit, a return after IR moves are made. They may also be looking to upgrade Reynolds, but I thought he did enough.
Yeah.
And there was some guys, obviously. So someone that's been mentioned kind of around it is Jonathan Bam Knight, the former Jets running back. He was good when he played against us last year. Maybe if they want to give a shot to Trey Sherman, because I remember he was drafted kind of high and he never really found any fit.
There's a ton of talent out there.
Yeah.
Like I say, if you got James Robinson as your running back 3 years, that's stupidly good to have him because if one of those 2 needs a week off or a break or something, he can come in and we know he can carry a full workload in the NFL and get production. And again, he's going to be running behind the best O-line he's ever been behind. So it's quite possible that running backs just been like, oh my God, look who's available. Let's go get them. And we've got waiver priority for some of these teams.
Just had a super chat in, by the way, by Brent DeWitt. $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Brent. You're the absolute best. I know that that money is not exactly something that you're swimming in right now, so please don't feel obliged to do that. But thank you. He says, great show, lads. 8 bits for the Brits. Appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah, there's lots of good guys out there, and I mean, frankly, we're half an hour after the cuts, and we've been going for 2.5 hours. There's still 144 of you guys watching. So thank you so much for spending this time with us, because we never take it for granted. Potentially this is the stream where we've had the most people ever watch our show. So thank you for doing that. Brandon says, hey ROTL, you guys need to discuss the bottom 3 defensive players that they may let go to balance out the team. So it is unbalanced. 21, 29, and 3. There's got to be some rebalancing, I think. An offensive lineman seems likely with only 8. But wide receiver with only 5 seems a little light.
That's what I'm thinking as well.
But the thing is, you've also got to take into account, you've got Jamie and you've got Sam. You've got 2 guys who are going to play a lot as receivers there as well. And you've got Jameer. So whilst you don't have a lot of technically wide receivers on the roster, you've still got 3 really good receiving options to complement them with. And as you were saying, Ash, the way we play is not, we use the tight ends a lot. We will use Jameer a hell of a lot. So if those 5 are fit and healthy, they're really all we actually need. I mean, obviously, if there's injuries, but you would assume the likes of Drummond and Coulter, and not Coulter now maybe, but some of these guys who've just missed out will be on the practice squad, ready to go in the event of injury. So, I'm actually not too worried about having 5 just because of the guys you have elsewhere, especially the tight ends. You've got 3 good receiving tight ends here who you can do a lot with, and who Goff loves to throw to.
Yeah, it's not even to sort of put aside even the ones we've cut. I'm just scrolling through now on cuts tracker looking through. But yeah, even then, some other teams are letting go some guys. So the Ravens let go of the Dante Demas Jr., the Maryland rookie receiver. He was feeding college. Who else is there that stood out to me? Oh, the Cardinals let go of the Super Bowl legend Corey Clement. There's a running back off. There's so much, as you said, so much talent being released that I know the past couple of years people keep tweeting that there wasn't that many waiver claims. I think this year there's going to be a hell of a lot of waiver claims and movement around the league as players change hands.
Because we've only had one set of cuts. Usually you would see more moves made over the last few weeks because of the natural trimming down you have here. It's just one big free for. I think that's why you've seen a lot of trades, like a lot of late round pick swaps and like just little things you give away just to get a jump on everybody else because everybody's going to be at the same time doing all this sort of stuff. So it's a different year to what it is normally because obviously the whole breakdown process has been completely different. So the claims will already be lined up. I think you've just got to wait till midday tomorrow to find out who you do get in that. So
I've just seen the Panthers have cut Brandon Smith, the Penn State linebacker from last year.
He was very athletic but very raw, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Got a couple of questions in from people who aren't quite sure about how IR works in this situation. So Tara DC, but several others have also asked a similar question, has asked, sorry to be uninformed, but why would some people want to be put on IR now versus later this week to get Reynolds back on the 53? I think the question is why not IR before rather than IR after? So the answer, Tara, is that if you go on IR before the cut down time of 4 p.m, then you are out for the entire season. If you go on IR after 4 p.m. today, Eastern time, then you are only out for 4 games and can return after week 4, so for week 5 therefore. So if you've got someone who's going to be out for the first 3 weeks and you want to get someone else on the roster, but you don't want to give up that guy's rights, then this is a way of doing it. You have to identify a player who potentially doesn't impact your cap very much by cutting them and who you don't think is going to sign a contract anywhere else. And then you can just do a bit of wizardry to cut them, but promise to bring them back, and then you do. It happens all the time. It's quite common.
It's to stop teams stashing. Because if you could just get away with putting guys on IR and been out for 4 weeks, teams would stash guys. And then you would sort of be able to load up on it. So this way, you kind of have to make a commitment to guys. If you've got like 5 guys who are on the periphery and you're like, well, I really want to keep them, but I'm not going to play them for a while. It's like, well, you've got to keep them. Otherwise, you've got to let them go. So it's to stop hoarding of players, which I think is a good thing.
100%, yeah.
I'm having a read through some other cuts as well, but...
Jake Bobo made the roster with the Seahawks.
Yeah, he's me and Matt discussed it when it came out that it was going to happen. He's going to sort of be their JSN replacement, inverted commas, while JSN recovers from his broken wrist.
Oh, well done, Bobo T. Well done.
Wow. Well, there we go. There's the player for Will Harris to match up on against the slowest slot receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, he's properly slow. 5 second 40, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Bobo versus Oh Love it.
There you go. There's some Twitter content for you.
Man, that's fun. Just want to take the opportunity to thank all you guys again for watching and just remind you of the content that we've got coming up. College football podcast coming up later on this week. We'll be talking week 0 last weekend and upcoming week 1 in college football this weekend. And there'll be 5 shows next week. Season predictions on Monday. KC preview show on Wednesday. KC live reaction show on Thursday. Ash, you around for that?
Yep. I've got Friday booked off from work.
Love it. There'll be a review show at some point later on that week, but I'm not quite sure when. And of course, the College Football Podcast will be back that week as well, looking back at week 1 and ahead to week 2. So between now and next, let's say Saturday, there's going to be 6 Roar the Lions shows. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
But it's coming at you.
And if you like reading, tomorrow I will be starting the drafting of the first game preview article.
Here we go.
I promise this year I will try and make them a bit short. I know last year like a 10-15 minute read was a bit too much for people, so I will try and shorten it.
Right, boys, I think we've been going a little while, and I reckon that there will be some other podcasters going live very shortly to talk about this news. So I think it's an ample opportunity to perhaps give some final thoughts before signing off. What do you think? What do you make of what the Lions have done? What do you think it says about this team? Who Who are you really pleased for individually? I know we've given flowers to a lot of people, but just maybe a couple of guys that you're really pleased for, and a few guys you're disappointed for that didn't make it.
Can I still the most obvious one?
Go.
Gilly. Just Gilly, like, yeah, again, this is the third year in a row now UDFA has made the roster, and he's deserved it. Like, he's balled out in pre-season, but at the same time, obviously, I'm a bit sad for Drummond and Thomas. Those are sort of two of my UDFA guys, but I anticipate them both being either back on the practice squad or being signed to someone's 53-man roster. So it's not the end of the road for them, but I'm happy for like all the young guys and everyone that's made it. Like Julian, at least he gets to stick around on his brother's, like with his brother for a couple more days before something happens. So I really expected it.
Yeah, I've already said it, but again, I'm just going to give out my props to Levi making this team. Yeah. Absolute in champion. The injury he's had, where he's had to come back from to make it to this roster has been nothing short of astonishing. And, you know, he deserves far, far, far more credit than he gets sometimes. And hopefully, you know, this season, he's in a good position. We've got a lot of guys in there. We can work him in. And if he becomes the guy that we hoped he was going to be, then this D-line is going to be absolutely ferocious. There's just guys everywhere who you're going to have to double team, the amount of rotation we're going to be able to do. We will just straight out wear down opposition teams. You know, these guys who've got like a good starting O-line, but then the depth is shallow. It's not good. We know like it is along this league. We are just going to beat teams into submission on both sides of the ball. So yeah, I'm just so happy for Levi that he's back. And they say shout out to all the ones who've made it. Khalil Dorsey, you know, if he's overcome his own injury problems, you know, he might not be there, but you know, you just want to give props to all these guys there and say, look, at the end of the day, I trust Brad implicitly. Despite my own personal opinions, he actually knows what he's doing. So I've never had this more trust in a GM or a head coach before. They know what they're doing. They've picked the best 53, and this 53 is going to go and kick ass this year.
Derek Beedleman says, you guys cover the MAC, correct? I'm very sure that the guys will have covered the MAC.
No, I need to. It will be done. I've got so many shows to pile in on there. It will be done. I need to sort of time with James because I guess James knows everything about the Mac. We have our own guys over in America who are Mac experts, so we're going to do a show with those. But I've got an FCS show lined up next week, so you're going to get to learn more about the FCS. We've got FCS Nation Radio coming on. They're huge. Ooh. I don't know why they want to work with me and Rye, but they do. They reached out to us, so that's going to be great. We're going to have Gerald on with all the HBCU stuff as well. We're literally covering every corner for you, so you don't have to. So, but the Mac stuff, I'm not going to ignore the Mac. It's a lot of work to do these things, so I've got to figure out how to fit it in there.
On the Mac as well, you mentioned James. That's Junie on our Discord channel, and he's great. He works for, remind me of the organisation he writes for?
Hustle Belt.
You
go find Hustle Belt. They're all Mac stuff. They're everywhere. They have reporters go to the games and all sorts. So they're incredibly highly knowledgeable about it. So,
or if you just want to talk to him directly, you can join our Discord channel, and I've put the link in the chat.
He's an absolute legend. Like, there's been times. So I remember during the draft process talking about, oh God, Zach Morton, for example, when we signed him. So the first thing I did as soon as I saw that, hit him up in the Discord and say, what can you tell me? And he gave me a proper breakdown of him. Fortunately, Morton didn't make it to now, but still, hopefully that's someone we can keep in mind if something happens, touch wood doesn't happen, but to Julian and Houston, we need a Sam guy. Zach Morton's there. So yeah, Junior's an absolute legend. So plus we're all in there.
Our thanks to OnePride0427 subscribing at Tier 1 on Twitch for his 5th month says, special teams or not, Will Harris is a wasted roster spot. I think you'll find no disagreement in the chat here.
Why?
I'm not saying anything. Don't attribute anything to me.
Okay, I think that we're going to come to the end of the show here. In fact, Finally, Mike Laundry has asked, do you guys enjoy English football? I want to root for your club, if considering you are Lions fans. Why don't you tell Mike who you support?
So I'm a Chesterfield fan. We play in the 5th division. We're like a very small club, so root for us. We need all the support that we can get, and we win a trophy occasionally.
Trucker.
Ash, you're up.
So I'm an Aston
Sorry,
Villa
what
fan
was
that?
that?
I'm an Aston Villa fan. We did play over in America this pre-season. Unfortunately, didn't get to go to Detroit. Crystal Palace, fortunately, had that privilege. But we've at least, we've won some major trophies and are playing the top division, unlike some. And we were the founders of the Football League. We're the ones that started it all. But yeah, we've got a line on the logo. Birmingham's like Detroit. And we're going places this season. We're back in Europe for the first time in like 13 years. We're going we're up there for the teams in the Premier League this season, since certain other ones like Chelsea and that have kind of fallen off. So if you want to join a team that's kind of like the Lions, had some bad history recently, but is emerging, now's the time to jump on the Villa bandwagon.
And I'm a Liverpool fan, have been since I was born for no reason at all, really. But obviously the success we've had recently has been great. But a long-suffering fan, really. A Champions League in 2005 notwithstanding, we had not won a Premier League title ever, and we hadn't won a First Division title since 1990, a month after I was born, until 2020. So despite being in the Premier League, when I started supporting the team, they were a mid-table dross Premier League team. So there we go. That is our Premier League teams, our football teams.
That's just mean.
Yes, indeed. Right, time to sign off, folks. I've gone through what we're going to do in the next week or so. We've got 6 shows in the next 10 days, so there's no reason not to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to let you know when we're going live. I always schedule our shows for the main show, so you'll know well in advance when we're coming. Thank you so much for making this show one of the most enjoyable in some time. Still 100 watching, 143 likes on YouTube. Must have broken our record by now. Fantastic show. Love you guys. Derek Biedlman says we need to do a GoFundMe page and get you guys to a home game at Ford Field. You guys got passports.
Oh, yes, please.
Yes, we do. We'll get there. Derek, we're going to get there. Don't worry about that. You know what our socials are probably and all that sort of stuff. But Royal Lions UK, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Check out the website. Ash will have an article dropping shortly about the Kansas City game. ROTLUK.com. It's been fantastic, guys. This 53-man roster absolutely deserves to be there. To a man. They deserve to be there. I know there's some names that you may think not, but they've all earned it. They really, really have. And it's the strongest Lions roster in the last 2 decades. What a scary thought. What an exciting thought. We'll see you later on in the week. Game 1 just around the corner. Let's go Lions, one pride.
Kansas City, you're next.